Eh bien, bien le bonjour, mesdames et messieurs, comment allez-vous? Bienvenue, monsieur Darkbose, bienvenue, Xixis. La forme? Bon, la nuit est passée, la nuit a porté conseil, et donc, on se retrouve un petit peu plus tôt que prévu, là, on va faire une compilation aujourd'hui, un petit peu des premières infos. Ouais, la forme, la forme. Passé la surprise d'hier soir, là, j'avoue que, avec du recul, je pense que c'est quand même le bon move qu'ils ont fait. La présentation d'hier, elle était ce qu'elle était en termes de forme, un petit peu, c'était quand même très... rébarbatif, mais il y avait beaucoup de tartinage. Mais si on met la forme de côté, honnêtement, je pense qu'ils ont fait le bon move de faire une sorte d'énorme update comme ça. Plutôt d'essayer de se forcer à rentrer un dueliste et des épées. Honnêtement, je pense que c'est largement la bonne stratégie de faire un énorme revamp comme ça. À mon avis, à mon avis. En fait, si vous imaginez les deux trajectoires possibles, trajectoire 1, on a un rework qui est beaucoup moins massif que ça, mais on a le dueliste et des épées. Et univers 2, bon, il y aura un balance patch, hein, évidemment. Mais il y aura pas de nouvelle classe à proprement parler, de nouvelles armes. Autre que toutes les armes qu'ils ajoutent, etc. Mais il y aura pas de juste d'épée, quoi. Mais par contre, on a un énorme rework comme ça, fondationnel de tous les systèmes d'endgame. Je pense que c'est la bonne direction. Ouais, j'ai regardé la vidéo de Chris ce matin, ouais. Yo Virgile. Pour moi, c'est un petit peu comme comme si vous étiez un nouveau joueur qui arrivait sur PoE en fait. Avec énormément de trucs, il y aura plein de trucs à découvrir, plein de trucs qu'on connaît pas. Mais en soi, c'est toujours ce qu'ils ont fait. Aujourd'hui, on va checker ça. Return of the Ancients, Content Reveal. On va checker la Q&A de Ziggy aussi. Et on verra s'il y a des infos en plus là-dessus. Euh, mais on devrait déjà avoir pas mal de choses. Hein. Ça va déjà nous faire pas mal de temps. Donc bon, je prépare un document. On va commencer à compiler un petit peu tout ce qu'on peut avoir comme info. Voilà. Ce qu'on en pense. Voilà.
Hi, I'm Jonathan
Bon le
Rogers,
son?
Game Director on Path of Exile 2, and welcome to GGG Live. We have a huge amount of stuff to share today, so it's going to be a good one. Twitch drops are enabled on today's live stream. Okay, so with that out of the way, time to roll the trailer for...
On va avancer un petit peu. Hein.
the Ancients, it's hard for even us to keep track of it all. Now, we promised that this one was going to revamp the endgame, and I'm...
Alors, donc du coup, juste récap. Donc on a 5 nouvelles, ce qu'ils appellent Endgame Storylines. On va faire un truc. Je sais pas trop comment je pourrais faire. Il me manque un troisième écran en fait. Il faut 3 écrans. Un écran pour vous, un écran pour le main content et un écran pour écart. Un jour, j'aurai 3 écrans. Du coup, 5 Endgame Storylines. Donc les origines de la divinité, donc ça c'est le nouvel arbitre. Hearn the Raven, ça c'est le simulacrum. Waking the Dreamer, ça va être une quête du coup de Breach. Right of the Nameless, quête de rituel. Masters of the Atlas. Y a pas de quête de la quatrième mécanique d'XP? Ah si, c'est là. Donc ça c'est le nouveau système Master of the Atlas du coup de... On va prendre des petites notes. Hein. Enfin on va commencer à formater un petit peu ça. Donc alors... nouveau système de quête en endgame. Ça s'appelle les Endgame Storylines. Tac, alors. Ok. Et donc on va avoir tous 3. The Origins of Divinity. On va dire quête générale. On va avoir The Hair of the Raven. Quête. Bienvenue Mogen. Crown the Raven, ça c'est la quête de Delirium. On va avoir Waking the Dreamer. Quête de Breach. Right of the Nameless. Quête de Ritual. Donc le dernier truc, on va l'appeler The Uncharted Seas. Quête d'expédition. Ok. Alors ça c'est du heading 2 du coup. Ok. Ah, c'est des malades, c'est des gros malades. Donc ensuite on aura les nouvelles ascendances. Du coup, Spiritual Cœur. Et le deuxième, c'est le martial artist. Brit. Spiritual Cœur, martial artist. Ok. Donc ensuite, on a la nouvelle ligue qui va être la ligue des Runes of Aldur. Nouvelle mécanique. Ok. Donc avec un système en map. On va pas forcément faire des sous-parties de ça. Et donc après, dans les trucs un peu mineurs, du coup, nouveau boss, Pinnacle. Ça c'est ok, on pourra en parler dans la mécanique. Nouvelle Atlas, nouvelle arbre d'Atlas. On va dire rework de l'Atlas. Je fais ça comme ça. Tac. Et Yo Aziz, ça va? C'est toujours marré parce que je sais pas si tu sais, mais mon prénom c'est également Aziz. Donc ça fait d'autant plus marrer à chaque fois que je te vois. Plus de 30 nouveaux uniques. Et Build Planner et QL. On peut faire une petite partie QL. On peut la faire au début, la partie QL, plutôt que de la garder pour la fin. Ouais, on va la mettre là, on verra bien, on va la mettre si on fait une vidéo. Of Life. Saison d'hiver. Ok. Bon, bah c'est pas trop mal. Hmm.
Very excited to talk about it. But first, we've got to talk about the league. So to do that, I'm going to hand things over to Mark.
Ok, donc Léo of Aldur.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts, Game Director on Path of Exile. Now,
Je vais me
for
dire
those
joke.
of you who are new
Un
to
certain nombre de
Path
fois.
of Exile, each time we release an update, we also release a new league. Not only do we have a new economy, but we also introduce new content through the campaign, which gives you a fresh play experience right from the start of the game, as well as new mechanics, storylines, and in-game bosses. In the Runes of Eldur League, you will encounter a man being attacked by the undead in Clearfell. After saving him, he introduces himself as Pharaoh, a young blacksmith trying to bring back the ancient art of Ezomite runesmithing. He has been collating his discoveries in a tome and is keen to show you how runesmithing works. By inscribing symbols on these ancient Ezomite remnants, you can create all manner of old magics.
Ok, donc ça. Donc on croise. Oh, tu dis remnants en français, c'est quoi ces artefacts? C'est des restes. Des vestiges. C'est ça. Des vestiges. Dans lesquels on peut graver un mot unique.
Unfortunately, on doing so, the corpses of the nearby undead are revived
Yo,
and
Nesrose, merci
infused
beaucoup.
with some of the
Nesrose,
latent
c'était moi.
power, making for a difficult fight. After defeating these monsters, Pharaoh realizes that runesmithing is a dangerous business, and he is going to need the help of someone a little more martially inclined to discover these secrets. He lends you his tome and asks that you note down anything you discover when you return to him.
Chaque mot
In each area
unique
in the Runes of Eldur League,
permet de crafter une récompense prédéterminée.
you will find a remnant. And as you approach it, you will notice that some symbols are already present, and some are waiting for you to fill them in. Depending on which symbols are already present, you will have
Ok.
different options for which items you can create.
Ok. Du coup, certains symboles sont fixés par le jeu. Donc, dans une rencontre, certains symboles sont fixés par le jeu. Et le joueur doit compléter avec un mot compatible. Ça va leur permettre de faire des tiers en quelque sorte. Donc la longueur du mot ainsi que certains symboles sont fixés par le jeu doit compléter avec un mot compatible. Ok.
Using this magic. For example, if you combine Tempest,
Alors, Tapet Rune. Monster gains can be shocked or chill, or damage can shock and chill. Chaque symbole renforce les adds avec des modifiers. Attention. On va faire une flèche. Comment tu fais une flèche? Oui, ça c'est pas développé par Google ce site. Attention pendant la campagne.
and Lightning, you can create an Orb of Augmentation. But be careful. The symbols used to craft the items also empower the monsters around the Remnant, who will be revived as undead to fight again with different properties depending on what runes you used. So, if you use a fire rune in your recipe, the monsters will be empowered with fire. Or if you use a moon rune, lunar beams will rain down.
Question, est-ce que vous pensez que les runes elles sont un peu gratuites, genre tu mets les runes que tu veux, ou est-ce que tu penses qu'il faut avoir dans ton inventaire la rune qui correspond? Genre vraiment, tu sais, les runes que tu engraves dans ton stuff. Probablement qu'il faut avoir la rune, non? On peut voir quand il fait les recettes ou pas? On va remonter un peu pour voir. J'ai l'impression que ce soit les symboles. Les runes sont des bouquins de recettes, ouais. Mais du coup, c'est pas les runes de PO2. Comment ça s'appelle? Ça, la Desert Rune, Glacial Rune, Iron Rune, etc. Tu vois? La question, c'est est-ce que c'est ça qu'il faut avoir pour la recette? C'est la question que je me pose. Ou est-ce que c'est des runes qui sont séparées? Fais voir un peu les noms et les symboles. Ça va être les mêmes, hein.
Dangerous business. Defeating the latent power. The corpsal manner of old by inscribing symbols on these ancient Ezomite remnants. Using works. Blacksmith. After saving him, he introduces himself to runesmithing works. By inscribing symbols on these ancient Ezomite.
C'est quoi ça? Rond-barre. Donc ils ont dit qu'il y avait 100 runes de plus, hein.
Remnants. Realizes that runesmithing is a dangerous nature. The monsters around the runes you used.
Ouais, je pense que c'est les runes qu'il faut avoir les runes. Hein. Je sais pas si quelqu'un a l'info, mais je pense qu'il faut avoir les runes en objet. Hein. J'ai pas l'impression que ce soit. Enfin. En fait, ce serait bizarre que ce soit les mêmes noms de runes et les mêmes symboles, etc. Et que sur la pierre, tu vois des chasses où tu mets les runes et que ça te demande pas d'avoir les objets physiques pour les mettre. Que sur la magie. Non? Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez? J'en parle dans le Q&A. Ok, donc on verra ça, on verra le Q&A tout à l'heure. Et qu'il ne faut pas les runes physiquement. Ok, bon. Je mets ça en incertain. Utiliser les runes. Question, nécessité de posséder la rune. Point d'interrogation. Ok.
So, if you use a fire rune in your recipe, the monsters will be empowered with fire. Lunar beams
Ah, parce qu'il n'y a pas de fire rune, ça n'existe pas fire rune, hein. C'est desert rune, je crois. Il n'y a pas fire rune. Tu vas voir, desert rune, c'est quoi son symbole?
Or if you use a moon rune, powered dead to fight again with different properties depending on what runes you used.
Tu vas voir. Il montre. Ok, fire rune, tu vois, c'est une sorte de gigouigoui comme ça. Ça n'a rien à voir avec la desert rune, donc à mon avis, il n'y a pas besoin. Je pense pas.
So, if you use a fire rune in your recipe, the monsters will be empowered with fire.
Oui, il y en a trois, mais c'est le même
Or if you use a
symbole.
moon rune, lunar beams will rain down as you fight the monsters.
Bon, ça après, c'est du détail, si on s'en fout un peu, histoire de Lunar Beam et compagnie. Et donc, ça me permet de récupérer du Viridium.
After the fight, break the remnant to receive the item you crafted.
Peut-être, je sais pas. Je crois pas, non, ça
As you
change
get
pas.
higher level, you will start to find remnants with more slots for more runes, allowing you to craft rarer items will be added. And this can get pretty dicey, because like the Oath rune, which will cause one monster to be nominated as a leader, spawning real damage to it.
Ça, on s'en fout, c'est du détail.
7, sorry, or even 8 runes.
Oh, longueur du mot, 2 à 8. Ainsi que certains symboles sont fixés par le jeu et le joueur doit compléter avec un mot compatible.
But don't worry, you won't have to remember them. Pharaoh's runecrafting book will record all the options, allowing you to simply pick which one you want to craft, given the existing runes that are already on the remnant.
C'est important. Les mots et leurs récompenses sont stockés dans un grimoire.
To expand your knowledge and to allow you to craft more items, Pharaoh has asked that you keep an eye out for signs of runic magic around Rayclost. He wants to document anything you find in order to rediscover the secrets of Ezomite runesmiths of old. The first of these can be found in...
Donc alors ça c'est la mécanique de vestige. On va le dire mécanique de vestige. D'accord. Bah je sais pas si vous avez suivi, hein, mais ils ont dit que c'était la dernière update, hein, donc... Ah non, d'ici le 29, il n'y a aucune chance. Aucune chance. Mécanique de vestige, et donc ensuite là il va passer donc à... Laisse-moi se confirme d'ailleurs, aucune chance. Questline. Quête. Voilà, c'est la quête de saison, comme dans D4.
Ogham, and reveals to you an ancient secret buried
Différentes
deep underground.
zones à checker
The
pendant
runic magic which
la
the Ezamites believe to be their
campagne.
own is actually of Kalguran origin. Thousands of years ago, the Kalgurans came to Rayclass to find sources of verisium, a metal on which engraved runes allow control over reality. Pharaoh is determined to learn these ancient ways and gain mastery over them. If you can bring him more verisium, he'll be able to use it to smith power into any armor.
Alors attendez, revenons un petit peu.
Is determined to learn these ancient ways and gain mastery over them. If you can bring him more verisium, he'll be...
Ok, donc ça c'est important, mécanique de vestige. Donc là, ça maintenant c'est... je sais pas comment ça s'appelle, le crafting of verisium, il y a un nom, le rune forging. Le rune forging. Il y a un E ou pas de E? Il n'y a pas de E. Il n'y a pas de E. Quête du forgeron. Différentes... Oh mais qu'est-ce que c'est que cette merde? Gage. Différentes voies à checker pendant la campagne. Déblocage du rune forging permettant d'améliorer les items avec du verisium. Yo Colette, ça va? Alors, reforges any armor to grant runic ward. Donc,
be able to use it to smith power
est-ce que ça change quoi que ce soit d'autre? Alors, 23, 23, 6, 3.
to any armor, granting you runic ward. The power harnessed by the
23, 23, 6, 3. Et ça a coûté 26 de verisium. Combien récupérer de verisium dans les premiers encounters là?
Kalguran League. If someone a little example, also empower abilities depending on what runes you used.
Tu vois un peu? Genre de combien?
So, if you use a fire rune in your recipe, or if you
Je pense que ça va générer un peu. Hein. Donc on est quand même peut-être plutôt en endgame. Je vois 20 verisium là. 21,
after the
15,
fight, break
15, 20, 21. Ça fait 40, 56. Sachant que là, un craft, ça lui coûtait 20 quoi. Donc ça va être quand même un peu en demande dans le verisium, je pense. Ça ne sera pas illimité. Attends, genre de... Ouais. Ça donne une idée
the
quoi.
power harnessed by the Kalguran
Ça donne de la runic ward. Alors, on va dire... qualité 1, ajoute de la ward sur les armures. Donc la ward... Alors la ward, c'est pour ceux qui connaissent pas. Pourtant, j'ai jamais joué ça vraiment sur PoE. Et la ward, normalement, ça fonctionne comme sur PoE. La ward, ça fonctionne similairement à l'énergie shield. Mais avec un twist. Quand on reçoit un coup, toute la ward est perdue. Les dégâts reçus sont mitigés du montant de... Donc au plus, sont mitigés d'au plus le montant de ward consommé. Toute la ward est restaurée d'un bloc au bout de quelques secondes. Donc ça fonctionne comme dans PoE1, ça devrait marcher comme ça. Un energy shield mais qui est on-off quoi.
Since ancient times. Runic Ward is a new resource that protects you from death. Should you run out of life, your Runic Ward will kick in.
Ouh, non, c'est différent. C'est pas comme sur PoE1, pardon, j'avais mal vu hier. C'est uniquement quand tu run out of life.
Sustaining your body until your life can return. It effectively acts as an extra life pool.
Ok, non, ça ne marche pas du tout comme sur PoE1 alors. Non, j'ai dit des conneries là. La ward est une nouvelle ressource qui s'active, qui permet de tanker des dégâts quand les points de vie tombent à 0. Des dégâts supplémentaires. Alors, on va faire ça comme ça. On peut pas voir combien il a là exactement.
Of course, should you take enough damage to run out of that, you will still die.
Ok. Entre guillemets, ce sera une barre de vie de rab.
Every single piece of armor in the game can be upgraded this way.
Donc il n'y a pas de prérequis de base.
Some are just a strict upgrade, giving rune
Alors fais voir, ils ont montré le black machin, la black mon cul, fais voir.
uniques.
Montre-moi ça. Alors,
Some
black braid. « 120. 398. 40-60. 40-60. 5-5. 10 sol raise. 150. C'est threshold, ok. Les... C'est la qualité 2. Ah merde. Oh de la merde. Truc. Qualité 2 permet d'upgrader les valeurs de base des uniques. Est-ce que la base a changé ou pas? Fais voir. C'est une Runeforge Fairplate. Et avant, c'est juste une Fairplate. Ok. Donc, c'est une sorte de nouvelle qualité. Donc, X devient Runeforged X. Ça, c'est bien, ça, pour l'endgame.
are just a strict upgrade, giving Runic Ward with no downside. Others are more extreme, sacrificing defenses to get a much larger amount of Runic Ward.
Alors, fais voir le bras de dôme. « 2183 015. Ouh, ok. Qualité 3 permet un peu du crangle, quoi. Un sens. Fais voir, donc 482% armure, donc ça fait dégringoler cette valeur, ok. Moins 3 all max raise, moins 5 all max raise, ok, donc ça va pas bouger. 202 stun threshold, ça va pas bouger. No extra damage from critical hits, ça va pas bouger. Et par contre, la ward, en gros, ça a transformé tout le pool en ward, quoi. Échange, du coup, les défenses de certains uniques contre beaucoup de ward. Oui, la ligue, elle va peut-être durer 6 mois, là, donc bon, honnêtement, je trouve ça... C'est ok. C'est ok.
There are even some that add new modifiers to uniques and types.
Alors, Radiant Grief. Il avait quoi, lui? Donc lui, il a juste pris de la ward, et donc il a de Increasing Night Magnitude. C'est une sorte de mode de corruption, au final. Et donc, on peut dire... échange contre... On va dire... un nouvel implicite. Il a perdu, lui, un truc ou pas? 121-35. 121-35. Non, il a pas perdu. On va dire une sorte de corruption. Corruption contrôlée. Implicite. Unique. Spécifique.
Highly, making them much more viable for higher level play. But the Calgurans use Runic Ward for more than just a defense. It can also be used to power many other magics. Instead of using gems created from corruption, the Calgurans used runes of power and fueled them with Runic Ward. Many of the options available from Remnant Crafting are new types of Calguran skills that exclusively spend Runic Ward to wreak havoc.
Redis-nous ça, là.
It can also be used to power many other magics. Instead of using gems created from corruption, the Calgurans used runes of power and fueled them with Runic Ward. Many of the options available...
Ok. Je sais pas, moi je suis assez content du reveal. J'ai trouvé que la présentation, en gros, j'ai trouvé que la forme n'était pas très bonne. C'était un peu du dégueulis la forme, mais que le fond est bon. Je crois qu'il y avait trop, enfin que c'était trop dans le détail à la présentation d'hier. Ils auraient pu cut, je pense, la moitié des détails qu'ils ont donnés. Mais non, le fond est solide. Nouvelle gemme runique qui pompe de la ward pour fonctionner.
Available from Remnant Crafting are new types of Calguran skills that exclusively spend Runic Ward to wreak havoc. An example is Triskelion Cascade. Using it will cause your next spell to be triggered multiple times in a Triskelion pattern.
Ok, bon bah ça c'est des machins.
You can use it with transform the same
Moi ce truc qu'on passe.
all nearby like the enemy. All these skills cost Runic Ward, and unlike gems, they don't have a color. That apply, the Calgurans were able to support their runic abilities, and you can as well. There is also a set of runic supports that can be combined with regular skill gems in interesting ways.
Alors, Runic Infusion, support attacks, causing them to cost Runic Ward to use, but deal additional physical damage based on the Runic Ward cost. Ouh, c'est intéressant ça. Ok.
Concussive Runes allows you to add these concussive shockwaves to confuse. Now, methods. Buried deep in the jungle in Act 3, even more secrets for use. With this technique,
Alors, les armes. Yo Joe, ça va?
using this knowledge, he gains the ability
Merci.
to reforge unique weapons. With this technique, many low-level unique weapons can be upgraded.
Alors, unique.
To do significantly more
Bien ça.
damage. Now, we've been able to take a bunch of uniques that had interesting modifiers, but were
Ok, bon, ça a pas l'air de changer par contre
not
les
engaging
rôles.
interesting things, like Searle's
Ah si. Genre là, tu récupères de la ward, par exemple. 117 de Runic Ward. Maximum quality 40%. Oui. Ça, je pense que ça va déjà dans le truc. Intéressant. Pas mal ça.
A
Hein.
new unique, which when runeforged can get one of several different outcomes.
Il y avait déjà, attends, la quality, j'ai l'impression. Attends, il l'a changé là, le machin, là. Attends, fais voir. Non?
Grit this
Ouais.
way too, and they can do some pretty interesting things, like Searle's Grit, a new unique.
La Thorns par Runic Plate. Runic Plate, c'est une mécanique avec Runic Tempering, j'imagine.
Which when runeforged can get one of several different outcomes. Now, there is still so much more that you can craft with remnants. There are also 100 new runes.
Ok, donc 100 nouvelles runes, ça on va le noter quand même. On va dire rework du base game. 100 nouvelles en runes. Après, c'est 100, mais qu'il y en a quoi? Il y en a. Après, s'il y en avait. Vous pensez qu'il y en a 100 x 3 du coup? Plus de 100 nouvelles runes. Après, il y a peut-être 3 tiers. Il y a 3 tiers, ça veut dire qu'il n'y en a que 30 au final. Mais bon, ça fait beaucoup
As
quand
well as
même.
many other new crafting currencies.
Je sais pas,
This
ça,
is
Simona.
the runes of Elder after all, and some of these runes have quite powerful effects.
Tu peux rester, oui, je pense.
For example, this elemental conversion rune will convert all the existing mods on a could combine a weapon with massive amount of rune sockets to turn them into a dual socket on your item. Even, for example, on your to get new mods. You can
Ça, c'est du détail, c'est entre guillemets. Alors, Zaloy, c'est important ça par contre. Alors, ça fait quoi? Remove the random modifier and augments a rare item with a new guarantee. C'est une essence en fait. Ok. C'est pas mal, hein. 20% increase mana cost efficiency, c'est balèze. Dans ce effect aussi. Intéressant. C'est une essence, ouais. C'est comme les essences de PO2, elles sont pareilles les essences de PO2. Ça, ouais. Bon, ça je pense que ça peut pas forcément la peine d'en parler. Enfin, des essences, quoi. Juste des essences avec un autre skin. Alors, ils trouvent Danig. Ils sont contents. Et donc après, à terme, du coup, les vestiges fusionnent avec expédition en game.
The Calgurn expeditions that Danik has been going on, expedition league mechanic covering which kind of unlike before
Ok, bon, ça c'est du détail après.
For the rest of the encounter.
On pourra expliquer quoi c'est un fusion.
You'll find that the atlas has changed substantially. To the south, you will now find the coastline of Rayclast, with the ocean beyond.
Ça, on va dire ça, ok. Fusion avec expédition. Alors, fusion avec expédition, à partir de l'acte 4, les vestiges apparaissent dans des expéditions. Nouvelle zone explorable de l'Atlas, l'océan, via des logbooks.
King's March has not fared well after the cataclysm, but he is much more concerned to the ocean to find her.
Une questline avec Gwennen. Ligne de quête avec à la recherche de Gwennen.
Previously,
on avance les gars, on avance.
Now, using a logbook, you can send ships to explore an area of the ocean to the southeast.
Ok, bon, ça, c'est pas grand chose de plus.
Eventually, you will find the island that Gwennen has been holed up on. open the doors of the vault. So yes, you of new, you can go as deep as you like.
Ok, donc une fois... Wenen... Yotekun, ça va? Retrouver boss fight, puis ouverture de la mécanique. Guillemets endless.
For example, here is a volcanic island with voltaxic sulfite.
Ok, bon après ça c'est des trucs, ça c'est pas hyper important tout ça. Quand t'as des îles spéciales quoi à découvrir avec des boss.
The meteor and a strange gigantic one shit magic. And upon defeating him, he calls down a truly gigantic one into the ocean nearby. On visiting it, you
ok, donc ça c'est Starfall Crater quoi.
Strange energy emanating from the Verisium core of the meteor within. There is something growing in there.
C'est le Starfall Crater on dirait.
In order to gain entry.
Stylé. Ouverture de la mécanique endless. Ouais, j'ai eu 2 Mage Blood la saison dernière. Mécanique. Et donc ensuite. Et ensuite, il y a une vraie quête suite de la questline. Dans l'océan. Nouveau boss. Et event.
Danik suggests that the Triskelion Flame, an ancient Kalguran artifact that can absorb and cancel the effects of Verisium magic, could be used to enter. But to find it, you will need to locate the Tomb of Olroth, leader of the Knights of the Sun. Defeat him and gain access to whatever eldritch nightmare is growing inside. Verisium that makes up the core of the meteor is of a quality that has not been available for millennia. Bringing this to Pharaoh and Danik.
Alors, nouveau boss events, chute d'un météore, recherche du tombeau d'Olroth. Recherche du tombeau d'Olroth pour récupérer un artefact qui désactive la magie. Du viridium. La barrière, ouais. Donc ensuite, on peut... extraction possible du matériau de la météorite. Ça fait quoi comme nouveau craft ça? Ok, donc ça permet, je pense, The Unleash, ça va être un nouvel item, c'est ça? Ouais. Ça n'existe pas. Alors, ça fait quoi du coup ce truc? All Max 13, il y a pas de ward. Intéressant, il n'est pas wardé encore. Armor ES, 100% spell damage, c'est assez big dans PO2 quand même. 5 intel, c'est des gros stats, ça aussi. 17 dans PO2, c'est pas rien. 7% of damage taken from hits bypass energy shield if energy shield is below half. Ok. Lose all runic bindings when you shapeshift to gain an equal amount of unbound potential. Donc quand tu shapeshift, tu transfères ta runic binding en une nouvelle ressource qui s'appelle l'unbound potential. Et gagne one runic binding on hit with spells, not more. Et donc c'est quoi le Unbound Potential? J'imagine que c'est un truc qui n'existe pas encore. Ça c'est du Unbound Fury ça. Pas du Potential, ok bon. Bah il faut pour forger des giga uniques on va dire.
The creation of which has been lost to time. So that's the League, and there is a lot going on. To sum all that up, there is a new encounter that was does it to the comers, 5 Algurans to the cynical to top it, time to thin.
Now as Mark.
Ok, bon du coup, pour résumer la mécanique, mesdames et messieurs. Runes of Aldur. Expedition. Donc ça va être un rework complet d'expédition qui s'appelle les runes d'Aldur. Donc on a tout d'abord une mécanique de vestiges qu'on croise en map. On croise des vestiges dans lesquels on peut graver un mot runique. Chaque mot runique permet de crafter une récompense prédéterminée. Les récompenses sont stockées dans un grimoire. Dans une rencontre, la longueur du mot ainsi que certains symboles sont fixés à l'avance par le jeu et le joueur peut compléter avec un mot compatible. Donc ça permet d'avoir des mots runiques possibles de plus en plus forts au fur et à mesure que le jeu avance. Chaque symbole renforce les monstres qui spawnent avec des modifieurs. Attention pendant la campagne. Permet notamment de récupérer du Verisium. Runeforging ensuite, donc ça c'est une nouvelle mécanique de craft donc, qui se débloquera via la quête d'un forgeron qu'on rencontrera, avec diverses zones à checker pendant la campagne. On débloquera du coup le Runeforging permettant d'améliorer des items avec du Verisium. Donc en première instance, ça va nous permettre d'acheter de la ward sur les armures, la ward étant une nouvelle ressource, qui permet de tanker des dégâts supplémentaires quand les points de vie tombent à 0. C'est une sorte de petite barre de vie supplémentaire. Qualité 2 permet également d'upgrader les valeurs de base de certains uniques avec le Verisium du coup. Ça permet de faire passer des uniques, on va dire d'early game, à des uniques qui sont peut-être viables en late game. Également, ça peut servir de corruption contrôlée sur certains uniques. Donc ça leur fait apparaître un nouvel implicite. Et ça, c'est assez unique spécifique. Ça peut faire baisser les stats, ça peut faire apparaître une stat en plus, etc. Ça a l'air d'être... il faudra apprendre tout ça. Et donc finalement, on a des nouvelles gemmes runiques qui peuvent être craftées également à l'aide de la mécanique de vestige, qui vont pomper de la ward pour fonctionner. On peut mettre ça là. Et donc finalement, à partir de l'endgame, on a la fusion de la mécanique avec expédition. Donc à partir de l'acte 4, les vestiges apparaissent dans les expéditions. Donc ça va permettre que les modifieurs qu'on va mettre dans les vestiges vont aussi affecter les monstres de nos expéditions. On a une nouvelle zone explorable dans l'Atlas à l'est qui va être l'océan, auquel on pourra accéder via des logbooks. Ça débloquera un arc de quête dans l'endgame où on va être à la recherche de Gwennen. Une fois qu'on la retrouvera, on aura un boss fight, puis ça ouvrira le côté endless de la mécanique. Donc ensuite, on a une suite de la questline à travers l'océan, avec de nouveaux boss, de nouveaux événements. À un moment, on pourra débloquer probablement assez régulièrement la chute d'un météore. Donc ensuite, on pourra chercher le tombeau d'Olroth pour récupérer un artefact qui désactivera la barrière de Verisium, qui nous empêche d'approcher du météore. Donc on pourra ensuite extraire le matériau de la météorite pour forger des méga uniques. Finalement, c'est pas si compliqué que ça, hein, quand tu fais un nettoyage un petit peu de tout le gras là qu'ils nous ont présenté, c'est assez direct. Hein. Ça a l'air cool en tout cas. Bon, je vais faire un petit pipi les gars, je reviens et on attaque la suite. Ok, bon. Alors, next.
Like hinted at before, the endgame atlas is very different now, and the ocean to the south is the least of the changes. Discover. Will you investigate the strange forest to the west? The atlas now has fixed points of interest.
Donc ça c'est intéressant. Nouvel atlas. Présente maintenant des biomes de mécanique. Pour toutes les mécaniques principales. Peut renforcer l'intérêt des tours. Point d'interrogation.
Specific like 4 though, no matter which objective you choose. First time you do that though, something new happens. The earth shakes. and a gigantic fortress rises from the earth,
Voxel.
a remnant of the ancient precursor civilization. The cataclysm of the beast has caused an ancient protocol to be invoked.
Ok, donc on a une présence également d'une forteresse géante qui apparaît à la première activation d'une tour. Je crois que c'est ce qu'ils ont dit.
Should corruption ever take hold to this degree, the world must be scoured and purged of corruption.
Et donc il y a le
You will need to make your
purifieur.
way into the fortress and activate the gates. Gain the keys to reach these ancient precursor weapons.
Donc cette forteresse contient le nouveau super boss du jeu. On n'a pas trop son nom. On va l'appeler... appelons-le Light Arbiter. Arbiter de lumière. Donc, contient le nouveau super boss du jeu qu'on appellera le Light Arbiter. Et donc, son accès est restreint à la possession de 3 clés. Je crois qu'il y en a 3.
And disarm them.
2 clés.
But this will be no easy task.
2
The
clés.
fortress has many areas to explore and many new
Je
things
crois que
to
c'est 3
find.
clés. Donc il en faut une pour...
You will power up ancient machines. Full in-game story take hold. Gain the keys to rid and purged of corruption. You will need to make your way into the fortress and activate the gates.
Non, c'est une tablette simple.
Gain the keys to reach these ancient precursor weapons. And disarm them.
Origin Cradle and Origin Spark.
But this will be no easy task. Deadly foes. Now the fort on with it, but not only that, it has some pretty cool new mechanics as well. The areas inside the fortress are special. Many of them have new mechanics or rewards that they grant.
Qui disons nouvelle mécanique. Ouais, ça fait très Diablo hein, ce boss, je suis d'accord. Nouvelle map qu'on peut appeler full mécanique. Full essence. Full strongbox. Wisp, etc. Full mécanique au sein de la forteresse.
Moves on. Areas of the Atlas. You'll need to fight the map boss of each area to complete the map. But unlike a normal map, the ones in the fort, you'll need to fight. Now, just like the normal areas of the Atlas, you'll need to fight the map boss of each area to complete the map. But unlike a normal map, the ones in the fortress each contain precursor nodes after the boss, and activating these nodes will give you points for the new and improved Atlas passive tree.
Ok, et donc les maps de la forteresse contiennent après le boss une balise des précurseurs à activer pour récupérer un point d'Atlas.
In-game that just wasn't. We have significantly up on the upgrade.
Sans passer du détail, juste important, tous les points d'Atlas peuvent maintenant être alloués et certains d'entre eux contiennent un choix multiple.
The rares are all unrecap the boss, allowing inspection that define will get the node contain more essence and more and to give it loot. The boss do was make the arbiters and there's a quest to get them. In game are now accessible with a quest line. That means that to fight the Arbiter of Ash for the first time, you don't need to get lucky by finding keys.
Ah, mais ils ont dit que c'était l'Arbiter of Ash aussi. Donc il y a aussi l'Arbiter of Ash. Et donc, est-ce qu'on est d'accord qu'il n'y a plus les forteresses d'avant? On est d'accord? Ou c'est juste la première occurrence? Je crois que c'est que la première occurrence. En gros, c'est que pour la première occurrence, c'est ça? Donc genre pour le premier fight, tu peux avoir tes clés. Et après, pour les suivantes, il faut trouver les forteresses. Ça c'est bien, parce que c'est un truc que les gens qui frustrent les gens. Je veux dire, le premier arbitre est maintenant un arc de quête dirigé. Pas de RNG. Attendez, parce que du coup, il y a deux arbitres, il y en a un. Parce qu'il y a encore le H ou pas, où il est retiré du jeu, le H. Ok.
They will be in fixed locations and there's a quest to get them.
C'est
But
lui?
the Arbiter of Ash is no longer the pinnacle of Path of Exile 2. For that, you'll need to travel into the very center of the fortress. An incredible challenge awaits you, should you choose to go there. After the storyline, you still
Ok, donc il y a les deux. Il y a les deux. Il y a Arbiter of Ash et on peut l'appeler Imperius, effectivement. C'est ça? Ok, je vois, je vois. En gros, le premier, l'Imperius, là, c'est un peu le portier. Et après, dans la forteresse, il y a l'Arbiter of Ash, c'est ça? Comme ça que vous l'avez compris, vous?
unlock keys for pinnacle bosses in the usual way, exploring the world and finding the keys required to get to them. But we have added a lot more interesting things to find out there as well. There are
J'ai pas compris ça, moi, je pense, oui.
now all sorts of mechanics that can spawn on maps in the wilderness. For example, some maps might spawn as a rogue exile hunting ground, containing multiple takeouts of the area and in the area. But this, each time you fight him, you get the ability completed, get a section of the fortress.
Ok, donc là, on a la forteresse, par exemple. Moi, ce qu'on voit, c'est le H, un redesign du boss et son arène. Ah, je suis pas sûr, ça. Hein. Je pense que c'est juste un redesign de l'Arbiter of H et qu'il n'y a pas les deux, du coup. On m'a dit l'Arbiter of H, ce sera pas le Pinnacle. Mais oui, ça veut dire qu'il y a juste un qui est plus Pinnacle, non? C'est pas ça qu'ils veulent dire par là? Je pense, hein.
And any maps that you didn't finish there will be automatically completed, giving you all the Atlas points.
On va réécouter, on va réécouter. On va réécouter le tout, parce que là, vous me mettez le doute. Bon, on est là pour ça.
Ruins of a vile city in the north. The Atlas now has fixed points of interest at specific locations, giving you specific objectives that are easy to find. Like before though, no matter which objective you choose, going to towers to see what's out there is always a good idea. The first time you do that though, something new happens. The earth shakes, and a gigantic fortress rises from the earth. A remnant of the ancient precursor civilization.
Ok, donc déjà, on remarque que ça ressemble quand même drôlement au Burning Monolith, non? Enfin, je veux dire, tu vois, tu te dis, c'est peut-être le H qui est dedans.
The cataclysm of the beast has caused an ancient protocol to be invoked. Should corruption ever take hold to this degree, the world must be scoured and purged of corruption. You will need to make your way into the fortress and activate the gates. Gain the keys to reach these ancient precursor weapons, and disarm them. but
Ok,
this will
donc
be
ça,
no easy task.
ça permet juste d'ouvrir l'accès à la forteresse. Ok. Alors, donc, alors, euh, l'entrée. On a accès et restera à la possession de clés. Juste pour rentrer dans la forteresse, du coup, mais ils disent pas qu'il y a un boss, hein.
The fortress has many areas to explore and many new things to find. You will power up ancient machines,
Ils disent pas qu'il y a un boss, hein, pour rentrer dans la forteresse, hein.
fight new and deadly foes, discover many new areas, and uncover some dark secrets. Now, the Fortress is the first of the new full in-game storylines that we're adding in 050, and there's a lot going on with it. But not only that, it has some pretty cool new mechanics as well. The areas inside the Fortress are special. Many of them have new mechanics or
Question aussi, parce que là ils disent la forteresse, mais on peut en avoir plusieurs des forteresses ou pas? Parce que les maps, une fois que tu les as faites, non?
rewards
Du coup, tu peux en trouver d'autres des forteresses d'une certaine manière?
that they grant.
Ou elle est infinie la forteresse?
Like this map, where all the rares are contained in essence crystals. Or this one, which replaces all monster packs in the area with strongboxes. Or this one, which spawns in his merry spirit that always moves on from a rare after you kill it, allowing you to chase it through the entire
Ah mais ça, vous pensez que ça, ils l'ont développé juste une fois, quoi, que tu pourras plus jamais le recroiser dans l'Atlas une fois que tu l'as complété? Ah,
map.
bizarre, non? Oh, ça fait pas très PO.
Now, just like the normal areas of the Atlas, you'll need to fight the map boss of each area to complete the map.
Tu vois, elle a l'air infinie la forteresse, hein. Non? Parce que regarde, il est là, le mec. Là, il est dans la forteresse, vous voyez, on a des murs là, et on a à nouveau des murs ici qui se croisent. Et je serais pas surpris que ça, ce soit encore de la forteresse, non, dehors. Au moins un des deux qui soit encore de la forteresse. Elle est peut-être infinie la forteresse, non? Pensez pas? J'ai l'impression que c'est possible que la forteresse soit juste infinie.
Just like the normal areas of the Atlas, you'll need to fight the map boss of each area to complete the map. But unlike a normal map, the ones in the fortress each contain precursor nodes after the boss, and activating these nodes will give you points for the new and improved Atlas passive tree. Now, we had an Atlas passive tree before, but it was one of the
On s'en branle, passive tree.
that every boss maps to nodes that dropping before the pinnacle. That meant to do was probably get back to the fortress.
Alors, forteresse.
Now, one of the really important things we wanted to do was make it so that all the boss fights in the endgame are now accessible with a quest line.
Ok, donc là, on est dans la forteresse, donc dans la forteresse, il y a le monolithe. On est d'accord. Donc, forteresse géante qui apparaît à la première activation d'une tour, son accès restera à la possession de clés. Cette forteresse contient le nouveau super boss du jeu. On contient le monolithe qui renferme le nouveau super boss du jeu. Et on sait pas encore ce que c'est.
That means that to fight the Arbiter of Ash for the first time,
Ah, Arbiter of Ash, ils l'ont bien dit, hein, Arbiter of Ash. L'Arbiter.
you don't need to get lucky by finding keys. They will be in fixed locations and there's a quest to get them. But the Arbiter of Ash is no longer the pinnacle of Path of Exile 2. For that, you'll need to travel into the very center of the fortress.
Ok, donc ensuite il y a le centre. Ok, donc cette forteresse contient le monolithe qui renferme l'Arbiter of Ash. Plus profond dans la forteresse. Forteresse se trouve le nouveau super boss. Un peu le purificateur. Probablement.
An incredible challenge awaits you should you choose to go there. After the storyline, you still unlock keys for pinnacle bosses in the usual way.
Ok.
Exploring the world and finding
Ok. Alors, boss. Les boss peuvent être run à l'infini en trouvant leur clé dans l'Atlas. Ok, bon. Alors, du coup, rework de l'Atlas. Si on résume, ce que j'ai compris. J'ai compris. Ça, on peut le mettre après. Voilà. Alors, donc on a la présence d'une forteresse géante dans l'Atlas qui apparaît à la première activation d'une tour. Son accès est restreint à la possession de clés. Il y a des nouvelles maps full mécaniques au sein de la forteresse, genre full essence, full strongbox, etc. Les maps de la forteresse contiennent, après le boss, une balise de précurseurs à activer pour récupérer un point d'Atlas. De manière importante, tous les points d'Atlas peuvent maintenant être alloués, et certains d'entre eux contiennent un choix multiple. Donc ensuite, on a le monolithe de l'Arbiter of Ash dans la forteresse, qui peut être accédé via une questline. Plus profondément dans la forteresse se trouve le nouveau super boss, qui est probablement le purificateur. Les boss peuvent ensuite être run à l'infini, en trouvant leurs clés respectives dans l'Atlas. C'est assez clair en fait, du coup. Et donc après, là, on va passer sur les mécaniques. Les works de l'Atlas, alors on va dire forteresse. Mécanique.
Finding the keys required to get to them. But we have added a lot more interesting things to find out there as well. There are now all sorts of mechanics that can spawn on maps in the wilderness. For example, some maps might spawn as a rogue exile hunting upon them in the midst or this one. Hi, I'm Jonathan Rogers, game director on Path of Exile 2, and Atlas Masters are lots of mechanics that but this version of him will be harder. And not only that, fight the pinnacle and the fortress again.
Alors,
once you have explored and found your keys, you can return to fight the pinnacle and the fortress again. But this version of him will be harder. And not only that, you will have new unique rewards as well.
ouh, donc il y a plusieurs tiers. Il y a plusieurs tiers. Tout super avec plusieurs tiers. Campagne, puis version, on va dire, ultime. Je peux l'appeler Uber.
Each time you fight him, you get the ability to activate one section of the fortress. And any maps that you didn't finish there will be automatically completed, giving you all the Atlas points. So if you're the type of player who doesn't want to explore the fortress, instead just race out into the infinite Atlas.
Alors, redis-moi ça, remontre-moi ça. À chaque fois que tu le bats,
each time you fight him, you get the ability to activate one section of the fortress. And any maps that you didn't finish there will be automatically completed, giving you all the Atlas points. So if you're the type of player who doesn't want to explore the fortress, and instead just race out into the infinite Atlas, you still have a way to get all those points.
ah, c'est intéressant ça. Et donc, à chaque kill de ce boss, on peut, comment dire, fast track, compléter automatiquement une région de la forteresse pour récupérer les points. Pour récupérer les points on le souhaite.
So that's the Origins of Divinity storyline. It's a huge amount of new content with a ton of new areas, 5 new bosses, including a pinnacle, with a bunch of new unique items. But not only that, it also completely revamps the Atlas tree and includes a ton of new map mechanics that you can find both inside and outside the fortress. But this is just one of the new storylines. So let's talk about the next one now, Masters of the Atlas. Now earlier we talked about how the multi-choice nodes in the tree allow you to still have an in-game Atlas build, but we didn't think that was quite enough. You have an Ascendancy class for your passive tree. Why not an Ascendancy class for your Atlas tree? Well, that's where the Masters of the Atlas come in. Throughout Rayclast are many opportunities for those with the skills to find them. Atlas Masters are willing to train you in these skills if you're able to help them in return. One such master is Jado, a member of the Order of the Jinn, an organization that secures powerful artifacts to prevent them from falling into the wrong hands. Jado will send you on missions to investigate strange occurrences on the Atlas and recover the artifacts causing them. And for each one you recover, he will gain more trust in you and teach you more ways of the Order of the Jinn. At level 1, you could...
Alors, strongbox in your map have 100 increased chance to be unique. 100% increase the amount of rare chests in your map.
Choose to massively increase the chance for rare and unique chests.
Okay.
Or make it so that all map bosses drop an additional unique item.
Donc en plus c'est plutôt un mappeur.
Or make corrupted waystones have an additional modifier.
Ok.
But at the cost of making them send you to a totally unknown location. Each mission you complete for Jado will unlock another row of abilities and give you another point to allocate, letting you choose how you want to specialize. But there are other masters too. For example, Hilda. Hilda is a member of a guild of monster hunters. She will send you on missions to assassinate specific deadly creatures around Rayclast and harvest their parts. In exchange, she will teach you her monster hunting skills, the unique upsides instead. You might notice that many of the effects on these are both upsides and downsides. So Hilda, for example, can make it so that you only get one attempt when fighting pinnacle bosses. But in exchange for that, they always drop 2 uniques.
Et bon, ça c'est du détail après, hein, on verra les points en... précisément. Ce qui est important de retenir, c'est surtout ça.
These mechanics before we do our 1.0 release. And so that's what we've...
Ok. Bon, du coup, tant qu'on n'est pas encore aux mécaniques là. Alors on va se noter, on va se mettre ça là, je pense. Là. Et. Alors, quête de delirium, quête de bridge, quête de ritual. Bon, ça, on va fast forward un peu parce que c'est un peu chiant. C'est juste de garder les trucs les plus importants.
Where you will find these mega abyss cracks in the earth leading away from the Well of Souls. All the maps along the cracks will contain abysses with points for the... With the boss 3, you'll get a key for the Well of Souls, allowing you to fight the Vessel of Kulamak. Obvious goals and a guided experience. Storyline, the Hare and the Raven. As you may remember, during Act 4 you were tricked into releasing an ancient entity from a Karui prison known as Tangmazu, the Raven Trickster. Tangmazu delights in breaking the minds of those who step through his mirrors. And when touching one, he will attempt to destroy your mind with twisted abominations. Turn of the Ancients, the first time you approach one of his delirium encounters in the endgame, you will find Elder Maddox locked in a trance. Once free, Elder Maddox demands that as you caused this problem, you should put it right. Mazu first gained his powers. But be careful. As you travel there, the Raven Trickster will attempt to break your mind. Each map around the Withered Willow features delirium encounters. Now this is more than a simple quest upgrade. The mechanic of delirium has been overhauled.
Ok, donc il y a une quête. Il y a une questline spécifique qui démarre à l'acte 4. Acte 4, du coup, amélioration de la mécanique de map avec des paliers augmentant avec la distance au miroir et la proximité du boss si l'on maintient le délirium.
And expanded. At the bottom of the screen, there is now a bar that indicates how deep into delirium.
Donc aussi, présence sur dans l'Atlas de Map spéciale. Map objectif. Au centre des clusters de Delirium.
You are. You can see which direction leads deeper by looking at the fog, and the deeper you go, the more challenges you will face. At the end of the bar is always the boss of the map, but we now have a variety of other encounters that you might find as you explore the horrors of your own mind. Shattered will cause all the enemies to become more nightmarish, significant, while fighting off hordes of your worst fears. If you are able to do so, you will gain a powerful amulet with 2 instilled notables on it.
Ludique. Nouvelle base d'amulettes, qui a l'air assez puissante, hein, très puissante même. Twisted amulette. Qui troque un préfixe contre un anoint supplémentaire.
Once you reach the Withered Willow, Elder Maddox discovers that a shard of the mirror
Le Withered Willow, le map objectif. Withered Willow.
is missing. You will need to track down Tangmazu and restore it if you have a hope of discovering how to defeat him, and that means entering the Raven Trickster's mirrors in an attempt to locate him. Each area around the Withered Willow contains delirium encounters, so that's a good place to start. As you do deliriums, some of the special encounters will drop liquid emotions. Normally these emotions can be used to instill amulets to add notable passive buffs to them, but in Return of the Ancients, emotions have a new function as well. Each one now has the ability to add crafted mods to jewels, allowing you
Ok, donc c'est les zones targetées, donc les distilled, les diluted emotion, là, donc les liquid ailleurs. Servent maintenant aussi d'exalt d'orbe ciblé.
to add specific mods to an item to add critical hit chance. But they're in mirror, an entrance into Tangmazu's realm is revealed. But it won't be the Lord Jewels. But there are many more. Once you've done enough delirium encounters, the location of a grand mirror, an entrance into Tangmazu's realm is revealed.
Et quand on a fait suffisamment de maps Delirium, on débloque l'accès à une map miroir, miroir géant.
But it won't be that simple to enter. Using his powers, he reflects the map boss for a ridiculous empowered fight, then destroys the entrance into his realm of madness.
Un double boss balèze.
In order to find him now, you'll need to let the insanity fully into your mind. A strange fruit is left behind which you can consume to fully embrace the madness in an attempt to reach the Raven Trickster's realm.
Alors on peut ensuite manger un fruit. Un fruit qui rend fou. Et on va manger un truc qui consomme en Nouvelle-Zélande pour faire un truc pareil.
Consuming the fruit will cover an entire area of the Atlassian fog, and every map you do in the fog will get progressively harder and harder.
Ensuite manger un fruit qui rend fou et qui applique le délirium à une série de maps de l'Atlas.
Harder as you explore the deeper reaches of your mind. At some point, you enter a new layer. A simulacrum of your memories, twisted and perverted by the Raven Trickster. Should you be able to complete the simulacrum, Tangmazu will believe that you are worthy of a true challenge. and will let you take the remaining shard of his mirror.
Ok, on peut ensuite aller faire... on doit ensuite faire un simulacrum. Pour obtenir le dernier fragment de miroir.
Allowing you to enter his realm of madness back at the Withered Willow. If you
Donc ensuite, retour au Withered Willow, où on peut utiliser le fragment pour débloquer la rencontre finale, j'imagine.
dare to face him, it will be a fearsome challenge.
De stylé ça.
So, that's the new storyline of Delirium. As you can see, it's not only a quest line, there are new mechanics, new crafting options, and new boss fights. But one question you might have is, what happens after? Well, once you've completed the story, grand mirrors will start appearing on the Atlas sometimes. The Atlas, you want to do your fruit-induced drug trip and get another key to fight Tangmazu. Be able to drop a bunch of new uniques that were not available in Mirror, the certain map.
En fait, à chaque fois, toujours pareil, hein, tu fais ta quête, etc. Et quand tu vas au bout, ensuite tu débloques le côté endless, où tu peux avoir les mécaniques Uber, enfin les meilleures récompenses, etc. Donc, genre, quand même un truc qu'il faudra commit probablement dans une des mécaniques, on pourra pas tout faire tout de suite.
Bosses affected by Delirium this way. Emotions can create mods that you can't get any other way. So for example, Potent Liquid Melancholy is an emotion that can only come from human bosses, and allows you to add a variety of on-hit effects.
Ouais, bon, ça c'est du... Je veux pas dire que c'est du détail, hein, mais bon, ça c'est... des machins... on découvrira ça.
New types of mirror shard encounters to your Deliriums, which adds the connected emotion mechanic. New unlockable notables, massively upgraded you'll cater to preventing the Hiveborn, the Keepers of the Flame. An ancient order of monks dedicated to preventing the Hiveborn from entering the world. As you seem to be a keen slayer of demons.
Bon, Breach, honnêtement, ça a l'air d'être vraiment... Breach, ça a l'air littéralement PvPE. Hein. Quête de Breach, voilà. Questline spécifique de Breach. Mécanique ressemble beaucoup à Breach 2. La nouvelle Breach de PoE 1.
But now you can visibly see how much time you have left to keep it open, and how each kill extends its duration. Once you've reached the monastery, you will learn more about the Keepers. In the 25 years since the events of Keepers of the Flame in Path of Exile 1, the war with the Hiveborn has not gone well, and they have managed to establish a foothold in the world nearby. A gigantic area has fallen to the Scourge, and the Keepers are unable to get inside. Inside the monastery is the Genesis Tree, a powerful asset to the war effort, stolen from the enemy and gifted to the Keepers by the Dreamer himself. Using the tree, Aelith could create a breach stone and penetrate the Hiveborn foothold, but without Hive Blood, the tree has withered. To get Hive Blood, you will need to take advantage of another new mechanic of breach. If you can keep the otherworldly portal open for long enough, the breach will stabilize and will enter a new phase. The Hiveborn will send their toughest miscreations to defeat you, and the breach will not close until you can annihilate them, dropping Hive Blood that you can use to restore the Genesis Tree.
Unstable Breach. Stabiliser pour récupérer du blood.
In some cases, you may even attract one of the deadliest foes the Hiveborn can offer, a Marshal of Zesht. These monsters also drop womb gifts, and if you take these to the Genesis Tree, they can be used to craft items. To help you in the war against the Hiveborn. Given that 25 years have passed since the beginning of the war, the tree has grown and withered many times, but with each cycle it learns and expands its abilities. Place your womb gifts with womb.
Bon ça, bref quoi.
or more niche options like this
Oui, super.
trees for sorts of thing a breach stone. Get a Once you've done enough breach encounters, you may finally get a womb gift capable of birthing a breach stone.
Alors, certains Womb Gift, tu les récupères directement les Wildstone, j'ai l'impression.
Breach stone.
Ouais, c'est ça. La Mage Blood. Je crois pas qu'il l'ait montré la Mage Blood. La Mage Blood, l'objet vraiment Mage Blood. Ils ont montré juste le nom. Hein. Ils donnent également des splinters pour constituer une Bridgestone.
The true, and you can then use it on the Hiveborn incursion. Becomes clear. Once used, the true extent of the Breach Demon's foothold becomes clear. They have not only transformed the land, but constructed huge sky hives as well. When you enter the outskirts of their...
Ok, donc là c'est la phase 2. On va appeler ça phase 1A, phase 1B. Phase 2. Utiliser une Bridgestone révèle une série de maps contenant des ruches.
Realm, you will discover breach hives. Using the power of the Keepers of the Flame, these otherworldly structures can be burned away when walking through them. But for each one destroyed, more of the Hiveborn will attack.
Littéralement copier-coller. Mais bon, pour l'instant, c'est quand même une mécanique qui faisait plus PO2 que PO1.
Rewarding for womb gifts, so you'll want to do as many of these as you can.
Ok.
But your real goal are the sky hives deeper into the domain.
Et donc, phase 3. Au centre des ruches, certaines maps de ruches contiennent certaines maps dans les zones de ruches. Contiennent une forteresse.
If you want to get rid of the curing the demon's entry into our world. Inside the very center are the Breach Lords Tool and Ash, and you will need to defeat them if you want to get rid of the foothold once and for all.
Dans la forteresse, ça. Hein. Avec une grosse rencontre. Et les boss de Breach.
Now, once you've completed the questline version, there is still more to do. You will find other Breach domains on the Atlas randomly in your travels. For each one, you will need to find a Breach Stone, destroy the sky hives,
Moi, je suis d'accord, Fresh.
and defeat the Breach Lords. And doing these encounters is what will give you access to fight Zesht, the existing Breach Pinnacle boss, which
Boss mineur de Breach. Et phase 4. Une fois suffisamment de zones de ruche éliminées, on débloque l'accès vers Zesht, le Pinnacle Boss. Mécanique. Alors, Ok, intéressant.
which you can access by communing with the Dreamer himself inside the monastery. While completing the questline for Breach, you will also be gaining points for the Breach.
30 points. Pourquoi il a 30 points là? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Pourquoi il a 30 sur 30? Pourquoi il y a 30 sur 30? Ça vaut plus de points, ça? Ils sont pas alloués? Ok.
Breach Atlas tree, and there are a lot of cool new options here. This node will cause breach hives. Nodes of
C'est pas obligé, t'en verras bien.
When you first your help, it isn't able to communicate more than the nameless storyline next. When you first complete a ritual in the endgame, Aoife, a lost spirit, will appear. She appears to need your help, but isn't able to communicate more than a few words, beckoning you to come to the Wildwood. Like the other leagues, Ritual now has a place on the Atlas to call home. The Wildwood could be found to the west. When you first arrive there, Aoife's spirit will guide you in, where you will discover that inside the Wildwood, spirits can take physical form. Aoife has been bound to this place by the King in the Mists, and requests that you free her. But in order to do so, you will need her body, currently in possession of the King. To reclaim it, you will need to gain an audience with him. Inside the Wildwood, there are many ritual encounters to complete. Like before, in each area, triggering rituals will resurrect the...
On s'est bien compris maintenant, en fait, tu as ta mécanique et du coup, il faut que tu partes dans la direction de la classe qui correspond à la mécanique que tu veux faire, c'est ça? En fait, ouais, si je comprends bien, du coup, tu as les différentes régions dans la classe. Et donc, tu te rends à l'endroit où il y a la région de la mécanique qui t'intéresse. Tu complètes cette région. Ça, normalement, ça te fait une questline qui te mène jusqu'au boss à tes premiers points. Et après, tu peux te spécialiser ensuite dans la mecha et la rencontrer un peu partout. C'est ça la philosophie, si je comprends bien.
Hi, I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games.
Ok. Des biomes de mécanique du coup. Maintenant, pour chaque mécanique clé, un point de départ de la questline que l'on peut rejoindre rapidement dès le début de l'endgame. Cela permet de déclencher le début des quêtes liées à cette mécanique et d'en débloquer les premiers points d'Atlas. Une fois la première phase de la questline terminée, typiquement une fois le boss niveau campagne vaincu, la mécanique peut apparaître naturellement dans l'Atlas et le contenu peut être pleinement farmé. Comme ça. Alors, ce qu'ils ont dit exactement pour chacune des mécaniques où était le point de départ. Ils ont dit que c'était à l'ouest pour Breach. C'est l'acte 4 le point de départ de Delirium.
Let's talk about the first of the upgraded leagues, Delirium, and its new storyline,
Faut chiant de mettre
and the
un
Raven.
des timestamps.
As you may remember, during Act 4 you were tricked into releasing an ancient entity from a Karui prison known as Tangmazu, the Raven Trickster. Tangmazu delights in breaking the minds of those who step through his mirrors, and when touching one, he will attempt to destroy your mind with twisted abominations generated from your worst fears. In Return of the Ancients, the first time you approach one of his delirium encounters in the endgame, you will find Elder Maddox locked in a trance. His mind is trapped in one of Tangmazu's delusions, and you will need to free him. Once free, Elder Maddox demands that as you caused this problem, you should put it right. He asks you to travel west to the Withered Willow, the location he believes that...
Ok. En fait, c'est quand tu complètes pour la première fois en endgame un event lié à la mécanique que tu veux farmer, ça te révèle à quel endroit il faut que tu te rendes dans l'Atlas. Après avoir complété un event de la mécanique liée pour la première fois. Ok.
Tangmazu first gained his thing is good for. Encounters in the next ancient prison, the Nameless King is with him. Wildwood, there are many ritual encounters to complete. Like before, in each area, triggering rituals will resurrect the nearby bound monsters to attack you, and killing the monsters will give you tribute. In addition, each ritual you do in the area will add the monsters from the previous ritual, making the encounters much more challenging the more rituals you complete. Once you've completed them, spend your tribute to get items. Now, an important change to the rewards of Ritual is that all the items in the reward window are now uniques or omens, making this league's rewards much more valuable than before. In order to gain an audience with the Nameless King, you need to sacrifice tribute to him. Any remaining tribute you don't spend can be sacrificed this way to fill up this bar. Once you have enough tribute for an audience, return to the Wildwood to divine his location with the Nameless Shrine. His location will be revealed deeper in the Wildwood, and you will need to make your way to him. Kill him, and get Aoife's body. Using her body, you can attempt to release her spirit, but this is when you learn about the true threat of the League. The Wildwood is built on top of an ancient prison. The King in the Mists didn't gain his power out of nowhere. He was granted it by an ancient being of darkness known as the Bodark, and the Nameless King's use of this power has been causing the prison to weaken. In order to prevent the Bodark from entering the world, a champion will need to enter its prison and beat him back, but those with a name are unable to survive there. In order to do so, you will need to transfer your name to another with a new mechanic in the Ritual League, the Rite of the Nameless. The rite will begin in a nearby forest. At first, it appears to be a regular ritual encounter, but that will soon change. The final ritual of the area will include the map boss, and defeating him will give you a piece of the effigy onto which you will transfer your name. But the ritual is still not complete. Once the map boss is defeated, the atlas will open, and you will need to pick another adjacent map to continue the ritual. During the rite, each adjacent map will have different rewards to tempt you. So for example, if you go in this direction, you gain significantly more tribute, but if you go in this direction, the uniques in the reward window will turn into currency instead. You can also sometimes get offered specific items that will be added as rewards, so in this case, you'll have to choose if you want to get 5 Chaos Orbs or a Mage Blood. Ritual gathered from includes the reward. But once complete, you can return to the Wildwood to perform the final rite. Transfer your name to the effigy, adorn the crown of the Nameless King, and enter the prison. Now of course, once the Pinnacle boss is complete, the League doesn't end there. As you do rituals on the Atlas, you can continue to give tribute to the King in the Mists for another audience.
Ok.
Pick another forest to begin the rite of the Nameless once more, and this time with a harder Pinnacle boss Atlas. You can make an new include hub, craft chain. Let's have a look at what this means for in-game total of 4 NPCs, but more obvious pop out use is the 2, but it's set. 1, statue to put in your hideout, set after the content you'll
Walker. The spirit.
Ok. Donc on est bon là sur l'endgame je pense. Donc là il ne reste plus que... Toutes les nouvelles ascendances a priori. Là qu'on voit que c'est quand même... Enfin, après on n'a pas eu le patch, hein, donc ça c'est un truc qui a précisé quand même. On n'a pas le patch note, donc on ne connaît pas les équilibrages qu'il y aura en plus. C'est vrai que ça fait quand même un bon... Ça fait pas tant de starting que ça au final. Hein. Ah, tu vois, quand une fois que c'est synthétisé, ça va. Hein. Ça, je vais pouvoir le torcher une vidéo de 20 minutes, ça, honnêtement. Une fois que c'est organisé, qu'on a retiré le gras, c'est pas si enfin, j'allais dire c'est pas si impressionnant. Pas si impressionnant, mais pas impressionnant dans le sens où je suis impressionné dans le sens de l'appréhension, vous voyez, dans le sens où ça fait trop, c'est indigeste. Honnêtement, une fois que t'as retiré le gras, c'est assez focus. C'est juste que bon, ils en ont fait des tonnes hier dans la vidéo, avec plein de détails, etc., qui n'étaient pas extrêmement importants. Mais une fois que t'as réduit, tu vois, vraiment à à l'essence des changements qu'ils proposent. C'est assez focus, je trouve. C'est assez bien foutu, c'est des bonnes améliorations.
Spirit Walker has
Ah, j'espère qu'ils vont le
developed an
nerf,
affinity with
le
the Asmerian
temple,
animal
ouais.
spirits. She is able to infuse the power of multiple
Ok, donc nouvelle classe, le Sacré Esprit. Sacré Esprit néo-zélandais.
spirits at her choosing. On the bottom part of the class, you will find paths for each wisp you would like to commune with, be they primal, vivid, or wild. Each one can give you different abilities that align with the stag, owl, or bear. Each ability gives you a method to become possessed by wisps of that type, and a new ability when you
Stag,
spend
c'est un élan. Ouais, donc c'est élan, chouette, ours.
The stag allows you to summon stampedes when you attack. The owl grants boons in the form of their feathers, which adds extra projectiles, summons a giant, and do intimidating roars to debuff your enemies. Now you can specialize more into each of these wisps, but if you want to combine all three of them, then a new hidden power will be unlocked, the power of the sacred wisps. This node is free, and with the damage leaping towards enemies, and your owl-empowered skills will leave a trail of soaring ground behind them. But that's not all. The Spirit Walker has other powers that give you large bonuses for using idols and the feature of Silverfist and the baby a 3, opening up a whole suite of very cool options for your build.
Ah, c'est peut-être la chasseresse. C'est la ranger ou la chasseresse? C'est peut-être la chasseresse. T'as raison. Ouais, vous avez raison, vous avez raison. Tresse.
Maybe you tamed the mighty Silverfist in the jungle depths. Headed kite.
C'est vrai que je parte là-dessus, ça a l'air marrant ça.
Or then there's a giant omen boss. Next up, we have the monk's new
Bon, enfin, elles sont sympas les
martial
ensemble.
artist. After decades of training, he has mastered 3 of the 7 hollow techniques. Channeling hollow form technique allows the martial artist to create illusions of himself, which then use a skill of your choosing. Perfect for turning skills with less area of effect into ones that can obliterate packs with ease. Should you find yourself overly vulnerable while channeling, you might want to take Way of the Mountain, which causes you to be covered in stone when you immobilize enemies, mitigating large amounts of damage. This can even enhance your attacks too. By hardening your weapon in stone, you can deal even more damage. After taking Hollow Focus technique, you can manifest your spiritual energy into objects. In this case, bells, which will appear around the martial artist earlier.
Ah, pas mal, hein.
Bell enemies around you. Through all the martial artist's thorough training, he has mastered the flow of internal spiritual energy too, and has engraved runic tattoos around his meridians. By doing this, he can gain the benefit of extra runes. Just open your inventory, take impactful damage.
Pas mal ça. J'ai envie. Bon, nouveaux uniques, bon ça, on va pas épiloguer, hein. Truc sympa, mais... Ah, on va peut-être quand même parler de ça, on va quand même parler du... On va parler du RF quand même.
maximum crowd control.
Je mets plein de, de guillemets, hein, parce que bon. Ça, on n'a pas les stats de Sparring Conspiracy, on sait pas quelle va être la rareté de ce truc, The Raven's Flock. On sait pas très bien comment ça va scaler. Vous voyez, c'est quand même. Enfin, imaginez que ce soit un truc qui soit vraiment rare déjà, bon bah c'est pas RF quoi. Ce qui faisait RF, c'était quand même le côté que tu pouvais start ça avec en SSF, avec n'importe quoi. Un truc bien tanky, etc. Là, il y a quand même beaucoup de points d'interrogation.
That's not where this item is, however, and skills. Pair of gloves and items. Or scales. Color even more condition. Apply point then. Cause periphery is a unique bow, which you talk about what tightening powered. Passing it, and then just voices. Voices is simple. It consumes one jewel, 3 with fortune, and one of the things that can to look for. But there are many more.
Bon, ça va être fou hein, pour les builds Adorn. Ça, là, il y a des gens comme Captain Lens qui ont du coup me dire quand ils ont vu ça.
More than just these.
Limit to one voices? Non, c'est vrai, ils ont fait ça? Fais voir. C'est limit to one? Ah, les salauds! Les salauds!
Equip it and notice the slots appear
Limit to one! Aïe, 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 aïe.
next to your character's portrait. One of them, the if you know what the 3. Hunting landmark encounter. The ritual encounter in this area isn't too difficult. Now, just you might.
Maintenant, on a des. Comment ça s'appelle? Des landmarks dans la campagne pour s'orienter plus facilement.
You'll know the boss on the road, on the block the jungle, even here. Play with plan expanded it now move you from map to follow tools over the year. So.
Et suivre. Suivi de build directement intégré in-game. Sorte de POB in-game. En gros, c'est très bien ça. Filtre des biomes. Search bar dans l'Atlas. Ok. Ok.
We are introducing how these things should be for table.
Et l'argent, la monnaie, la monnaie. Et une nouvelle stage tab. QO L entre parenthèses $. Nouvelle stage tab. Ok. Cool. Alors du coup, dans la petite intro, là, on va dire, on va faire juste rapidement. Nouveau patch majeur de PoE2 qui sera disponible le 29 mai à 22h heure de Paris. 3 semaines de 2 semaines 3 semaines d'intervalle pour permettre de tester le patch plus méticuleusement. Focus principal sur la refonte du système d'endgame du jeu. Ah c'est vrai, j'avais oublié la search, c'est important ça aussi. Recherche d'items dans sur le trade directement en jeu. Contrôle, Shift. C'est vous informatique, non? Genre, votre joueur a que 16 joueurs-là pour faire un doc avec des numérations partout et pas une seule phrase avec des points à la fin. On prend des notes, quoi. Ok, bon, bah c'est pas mal. Donc, ce qu'on va faire, mesdames et messieurs, la mauvaise nouvelle, c'est que j'ai du linge à aller étendre. Donc, je vais aller étendre mon linge rapidement avant que ça pue. Et après, on va se mater la Q&A de 2h38. Raison dans le ciel ou pas? Oui, effectivement. Je suis également dans l'informatique. Je reviens du coup dans 10 minutes, je pense. Grosso modo, je vais mettre un petit timer, un petit message. Je vais mettre un peu de musique pour les gens qui sont sur Twitch. Je pense à éteindre pour YouTube. Je vous mets un peu de musique et je reviens dans 10 minutes. Voilà. Notre accès au public, je vous ferai une vidéo dessus avec le doc. Ouais. C'est plutôt moi pour me faire des notes aussi pour la vidéo récap ou les vidéos récap que je vais vous faire. Un peu de musique. Voilà. Un petit texte. Pour la personne qui demande si je bosse dans l'informatique, là je pense que là la couverture est tombée là les gars. Multi Perceptron, ND Mat Mul Cuda Kernel. Allez hop. Alors. Retour dans 10 minutes. Voilà. Hop hop hop. Voilà. Allez, à tout de suite. Ok. Heureux. Donc pour rappel, hein, on s'est fait là toute la vidéo, on s'est refait la vidéo d'hier. Maintenant on va se faire le Zigidi. Avant de faire le Zigidi, on va acheter un œil à cette page. Ah, tout à fait, Dark. 21 jours, putain. Allez, allez. Pas un cadeau, ça. 21 jours, c'est le Blue Balls, un peu. Oh, les bâtards. Ah, monsieur Nip. Tu dois être en compilation également, là, non? Donc ça, a priori, c'est le nouveau boss Pinnacle, on va dire. Avec la spire qu'ils ont montré. Of the Atlas. Ah ok, je regarde juste, ça c'est des trucs vraiment incroyables qu'on n'a pas vus et qui méritent d'aller dans le résumé. Typiquement, ça c'est du détail. C'est du détail parce que si on en connaît que 3 sur 12, bon, y a pas de quoi avoir une analyse très, très profonde à part de dire que ça peut être bien. J'ai l'impression qu'il y a des trucs vraiment. Enfin, là en gros, on a des exemples hein, de quelques items. Très satisfait, hypé, oui, Nip. Je suis pas très content de la forme qu'ils ont eue. Je trouve qu'ils ont. Leur vidéo d'hier, elle était en dessous quand même. Elle était trop tartinée, il y avait trop. Ils auraient dû simplifier plein de trucs. Au catalogue. Pour moi, ils ont été beaucoup trop dans le détail. La forme était pas bonne, mais le fond est très bon, je pense. Et toi? Ah, je pense que c'est plus que dense. Hein. C'est vraiment too much. Hein. Ils rentraient dans des détails qui étaient absolument pas nécessaires. À mon avis, en tout cas. Au point que ça faisait, pour moi, enfin, ça rendait le propos inaudible en un sens. Hein. Et quand tu reprends le truc, dans le détail, que tu vires le gras, etc., c'est assez intéressant. Enfin, c'est très intéressant. Et pour moi, leur vidéo d'hier, là, qui a duré, je sais pas, 1h20 ou 1h30, elle aurait dû durer 40 minutes. Alors, là, on va se faire le Zigidi, mesdames et messieurs. Parti.
Teaser for Return of the Ancients expansion and its complete overhaul to just every single thing in the endgame, complete endgame overhaul.
Ouais, exactement. Ils auraient pu faire, par exemple, la production de 40 minutes hier, et après faire tous les 3 jours, sortir une vidéo spécialisée Deep Dive dans un des trucs.
The Runes of Aldor League with a frankly somewhat
Ouais, t'es plus
confusing
intelligent.
amount of crafting and systems and things in it. It kind of keeps going.
Je peux vous mettre. Vous voulez les sous-titres ou pas? Il y a des gens dans le chat qui veulent les sous-titres ou pas? Si oui, je peux.
And then we've got like the Kalguran skills that work across weapons, the extra looking ascendancies and some insane uniques and all that sort of stuff. But honestly, it's kind of easy to talk about what's not part of 0.5. So with that very elegant segue, let's do that first. So I think some people definitely had an expectation or a hope
Merci.
that there was going to be a new class or a new weapon type here, swords perhaps.
Unfortunately, it's just the case that making a class is something that takes longer than a single cycle. So yeah, it was never going to be on the cards for 050, unfortunately. But
so it wasn't even that it was moved in this case.
No, it just wasn't. It just,
Ils ont mal communiqué là-dessus, hein, parce que là, enfin, alors, vous pensez que c'est eux qui ont mal communiqué ou c'est la communauté qui s'est hypée pour rien pour la nouvelle classe? Franchement, c'est un peu de leur faute.
So it's going to have to be the next one before we're able to get.
Well, last time you guys teased like the druid and the huntress beforehand.
Exactly. Right? So it's kind of funny seeing everyone like this. Like probably the mistake we made was having a sword in the teaser for the breach stuff.
I thought it was a fishing rod.
yeah. So no one thought about that, but it's just kind of funny.
It is a shame, but it seems like you guys have kind of. Well, you keep raising the bar on yourself as far as class design is concerned. Like,
and it's not like we're not working on it in the background, right? Like that is definitely happening.
I've been seeing a little bit of work going on there.
We're simple people from New Zealand, like swords.
On va préciser quand même, pas de nouvelles classes ni de nouveaux types d'armes. Malgré les prédictions.
They're advanced technology that we haven't
right. Okay, so we just don't understand.
We're trying to learn how they work.
Just like get on the map, aren't you?
There's like a straight line. There's like some metal. These are complex things.
There's a lot to figure out there. But do you care to speak at all, like kind of what your plans are in that regard as far as like classes and?
Okay, on va noter quand même dernier patch avant la release en fin d'année. Il y aura des events en attendant.
I really shouldn't, just because it'll spoil the reveal for that will come
not
some
exactly,
of the time.
but like, what are you kind of hoping towards getting, like from 0.5 onwards? In the lead up to ExileCon in terms of that? Are you hoping to get like all of the classes in the game, just one or two more or something like that?
Well, so I think that what the main focus is going between 050 and 1.0 is going to be more about like improving what we have, like polishing everything, and 1.0 is where you're going to get the like the big new content update, like that's going to include the Acts 5 and 6, it's going to include like class stuff, it's going to include like all that sort of thing, because really ultimately the main goal
confirme bien que la 1.0 contiendra toutes les classes et toute la campagne.
Of what like of early access is like make sure that all the systems that we have in the game are good, right? So we need to make sure the end game is good. We need to make sure that all of the like the skills, just the way that combat is good, and like all the various things like like even stuff that isn't good yet, like ascendancy trials, right? Like there's going to be stuff that we need to do before 1.0 to get good, and so like that's kind of so long as we can get that stuff, then I think people trust that we know how to create like an act at this point, right? Like so that isn't exactly something we need to test per se. So really what we need to do now is like assuming that people are happy with the end game that we've released in 050, that will mean that we've kind of checked all the boxes of stuff that we need to know, and there's still stuff that we need to improve, and like that'll happen between 050 and...
Et toi, Inip, je passe encore là, mais t'es chaud aussi sur ce patch ou pas? C'est assez haut, hein, honnêtement, c'est assez cool. Ou tu trouves que ça fait trop, que c'est indigeste?
In 1.0, but like that's the main thing we need to be sure of, and then once we've got that, it's like now we can get the big update, the ridiculous update that is 1.0 ready.
And I heard you mentioning that recently as well, that you don't feel like you really need to get the last acts in for testing.
No, I mean, like, we know how to do that.
Ouais, le plus gros est à faire. C'est une guide du jeu. On va dire mise en place d'éléments fondationnels sur lesquels ils construiront ensuite. Pardon.
It's one of those things that like look, people saw in for. Like we know what we're doing when it comes to that
Yeah.
stuff. It's just
So the plan's obviously to get like those last acts in, to finish the story and have all that come out at launch.
in 1.0 exactly, and look, that'll be the launch. Yeah.
Conclusion to the story then. Yeah, exactly. So you have done, though, one extremely gigantic update here for Endgame. And it seems like you've done a lot all-in-one expansion.
Yeah.
And you've got this plan to like kind of do a little bit of like some other stuff in the interim. So why did you go for this route of trying to do so much all in one instead of spreading it out over, say, a couple of expansions?
So in retrospect, maybe we should have spread it out, but honestly the reason is because we wanted to actually make it so that like we wanted to deliver a patch where like this is what we expect the end game to be. Like this is the template for what leagues look like when they're in end game, and that kind of thing. And I feel like if we'd just done a couple of them, it wouldn't have really got that across. Like it needs to be like, once again, this is what end game is, you know? And it really is fulfilling a lot more of what we had hoped for in terms of feeling like a world that you can explore, you know, that there's things everywhere and that kind of stuff that we had wanted for. And the other thing as well is there were just like a few things about the current end game, right? It just didn't really give you goals in the right way. Like you get to end game, you don't know what the hell to do, and a lot of players just leave right there. You know, there needs to be the case that when you get there, like there's objectives, there's things, you know.
Note les trucs ici, après on verra pour organiser. Effort sur l'onboarding dans l'endgame. Objectif plus progressif pour introduire les mécaniques. Du début de la première rencontre au Pinnacle.
It feels like there's actually a storyline there, this kind of stuff, in order to entice players to actually go further than the campaign and actually get into endgame. So I think that if we hadn't done all of the leagues at the same time, it just wouldn't really have kind of gotten across what we're really going for there.
And it sounds like the plan now is to be able to focus on a little bit more polish in the lead up to ExileCon as well.
So we plan to have some more leagues, but they won't be like content like mega expansion type leagues. Like it's more like kind of like the 1 month event type things that we've done, and that's really just because we want to be able to. We still don't want to do mid-league nerfs, and so to be able to do all the balance changes we want to do, because there's a huge amount of balance still to do. In order to do all that stuff, you still need to have an economy reset, and so what we'll probably do is more event type stuff, like remixes of existing content, but also adding stuff where stuff's missing. So for example, like we still have a lot more uniques we need to make, especially that mid-game uniques, so that kind of stuff. Like we now believe we've got the standard of where a unique needs to be in PoE 2 in terms of like,
ça on verra, le standard de where the unique should be, ça sera testé quand même.
And it's like way more than what you need in PoE 1 in terms of being like to reach the standard. And so now that we've got that, we can expand on that, get more uniques, sort of mid-game ones, that kind of stuff. So there's stuff like that'll be coming in the sort of the updates between now and 1.0. But it isn't going to be the kind of like mega content craziness that we've got for OFO here.
We have a lot to dive into as far as endgame things. While people watching live get your questions in the chat for all of that. In the meantime, I want to ask you folks about the new league, the Runes of Aldur.
Il est dégueulasse version.
Like an expedition rework, but it's also its own separate league. This encountering remnants, uncovering these runes throughout this storyline in the campaign, and then into endgame. And I was like,
ils ont communiqué sur la rareté du staff en question du RF. Bon, ça se trouve, ça va être un truc giga rare.
Really, like it's a lot. There's a lot of like crafting and items and reward types and systems and stuff going on here. In fact, Jonathan, you showed me this rather unhinged looking spreadsheet. Like I was like, oh, so these are just like random rewards or something. But then you showed me this spreadsheet, like that's like the recipes of how different runes combine together to make different things.
Yeah. We probably put too much thought into it that it honestly needed. But like, like we have to make sure that like if it's an iron rune, like what kind of stuff would be creating that? Like that's sort of thing. Like the recipes have a lot more structure to them, and I suspect a lot of that players won't even think about. Like they'll just see list to pick for item, like that's something I really think about. But there is some thought put into that of like what things go to what recipes.
One way to look at this league has the most spreadsheets we've ever made.
Like that's a title line, right?
The other day I was looking through we have this gig. It's called like Verisium crafting or something.
Yeah.
I was looking through all the tabs, and I was like, I was on like the 60th tab, and I was like, the heck is this? I was reading all this stuff, and it said like Mark's ideas, and I was like, I don't remember coming up with any of this. I did. There's just like pages and pages and pages of crafts and stats and just like honestly, I've lost the plot a little bit with respect to how many like different things we've made and like it's honestly just been crazy.
Idea writing.
Some of the rune stuff is like also super bizarre. Like, okay, I don't even really understand that rune that's got to do with uniques. Like, what's going on with that?
It's called Olroth's Legacy. And it's a rune that you can place in Ezomite and Kalgurin uniques to destroy the unique, and it takes one of the mods off of it and creates a unique rune.
What?
With a slightly modified.
J'ai entendu ça. Ça, c'est marrant. Du coup, il y aura une nouvelle rune que tu pourras mettre dans certains uniques, on va dire, de saveur expéditionnesque. Et qui détruit l'unique et qui crée une nouvelle rune qui contient une des affixes de l'unique.
Value sometimes, because obviously, and then you can put that in the same item class of a different item.
Ouais, le grade des uniques, c'est une bonne idée. Bon, c'est un peu... Comment dire? Je trouve que c'est un peu le patch, le sparadrap, tu vois, pour essayer de corriger un problème qui est plus profond que ça. Le problème des bases. Que tu veux... Enfin, c'est forcément un problème que posent les bases, ça, le fait que c'est des uniques qui, de par leur base, deviennent plus du tout viables en endgame. Donc c'est un peu un patch qu'ils font par-dessus ça en disant bon, on va faire un système qui permet que l'unique bouffe du Verisium et que sa base s'améliore en une base supérieure. C'est pas très élégant, je trouve, mais ça peut fonctionner.
The systems just keep coming out of the
There's just so many crazy crafting things going on, but it was kind of like, well, when we were designing.
Je dis que c'est pas très élégant parce que c'est littéralement on ajoute un nouveau système dans le jeu, un peu d'un scope creep dans le jeu pour avec une nouvelle ressource et tout pour permettre de régler un problème plutôt que de trouver une solution élégante à la cause du problème sans rajouter un nouveau système. Donc ça fait un nouveau truc pour les joueurs à apprendre à dire ok bon bah t'as ton unique et là maintenant il faut que t'ailles à la table de Verisium de rune crafting pour le transformer sa base et compagnie. Pour ça je trouve ça pas très élégant comme design, mais ça a le mérite de potentiellement pouvoir marcher.
The league, we're like, okay, we've got Kalgurans. Like, what kind of crazy crafting and magic systems would Kalgurans?
Pas 30 manières de faire, ça je sais pas, je suis pas game designer, mais peut-être qu'il y avait d'autres manières de faire. Mais ça demande de se replonger sur les raisons profondes de pourquoi il y a ce problème-là avec les uniques. Ils ont eu un peu le même problème avec les gemmes, hein. Vous savez, les gemmes de support, où maintenant on a les tiers 1, 2, 3, je crois même peut-être 4, 5, un truc comme ça. Où le problème c'était que les gemmes de support, vu qu'ils ont retiré les levels qu'on avait dans PoE1 sur les gemmes de support, et bien dans PoE1 t'as une progression naturelle sur tes gemmes de support, sur les valeurs de tes gemmes, mais dans PoE2 vu qu'ils ont voulu retirer ça et avoir des gemmes de support absolues, tu te retrouvais avec l'impossibilité de trouver des bonnes valeurs qui soient à la fois équilibrées pour l'early et pour le late game. Et donc ils ont solutionné ça en démultipliant le nombre de gemmes, en disant bah chaque gemme elle sera en 3 à 5 versions. De manière à pouvoir avoir la niveau 1, niveau 2, niveau 3, niveau 4, niveau 5, et du coup ils te réintroduisent une forme de niveau sans vraiment qu'il y ait le côté leveling, il faut quand même les trouver, ça charge les stash à mort et compagnie. Donc c'est un peu pareil ce genre de système, tu vois, c'est bon. Ils ont le problème où ils veulent avoir des objets qui soient à la fois viables en early, enfin à la fois équilibrés en early et utilisables en endgame. À la fois ils veulent que ce soit drop only, ils veulent que les bases elles comptent, ils veulent pas qu'il y ait de leveling du coup des gemmes, des items a priori. Et donc pour ça ils sont obligés d'inventer des systèmes qui multiplient les objets. Du coup il y aura 2 versions là de chaque unique, au moins 2, je sais pas s'il peut y en avoir peut-être plus, selon si c'est random ou pas le rune crafting. Donc il y aura 2 ou plus versions de chaque objet unique. Pour pallier au fait que sinon t'as le problème que tu peux pas équilibrer un objet pour l'early et le late. Et je dis que c'est pas très élégant parce qu'il y a d'autres jeux comme PoE1, Diablo 2, etc. qui nous ont montré que tu peux avoir des objets uniques que tu peux porter. Tu peux avoir genre des objets uniques que tu peux porter par exemple en early endgame et qui sont très bien, tu vois. Que tu peux porter littéralement de la campagne jusqu'à l'early endgame, jusqu'à même parfois le late endgame parce qu'ils sont des affixes qui sont vraiment sympas. Parce que quand tu réfléchis, il y a plein d'objets uniques comme ça dans PoE1 qui sont des objets uniques que tu peux équiper genre dès le leveling et après qui sont pas best in slot mais que tu peux garder longtemps dans l'endgame sans qu'il y ait de soucis. Sans qu'il y ait besoin d'avoir un système de transformation spécial. Mais c'est sûr que ça demande vachement plus de temps de repenser les objets uniques profondément plutôt que de slapper un système rune crafting, allez hop, Le machin, ça multiplie par 3 les valeurs, et puis comme ça, on est content.
have like that would be different than the stuff that's going on in Rayclast, and so their whole magic system is based around like this star metal that they have Verisium, and then they like the words give it power and so on. So we're just kind of thinking, we're using that as inspiration for all the different crafting things you
Blue
have.
shapes.
Yeah, all the blue runic shapes and everything. So it was just a lot of
little nuts on this.
yeah, we went definitely. So there's so many crafting things.
Tu vois, tu peux penser à des uniques genre le Quill Rain dans PoE1. Des uniques comme ça, comme le Quill Rain, même la Tabula, etc. C'est des uniques que tu peux équiper niveau 5. Et ça, le Quill Rain, il y a plein de builds qui peuvent porter ça jusqu'à limite jusqu'au premier Pinnacle Boss. Hein. Ce genre d'item. T'en as plein, hein. Bah, t'as la Tabula évidemment. T'as les uniques de stats, hein, des trucs genre l'Astramantis. Il y a plein de builds qui peuvent jouer ça pendant un certain temps. Alors si tu peux équiper ça level 20. Trucs genre la Cold Iron Point. Ça, régulièrement, c'est rejoué. Alors que c'est un machin qui a pas des gros stats, mais c'est parce qu'il y a un plus 3 dessus. T'as plein d'uniques. En fait, le truc, c'est que sur PoE1, la base est pas toujours aussi importante que sur PoE2, j'ai l'impression. En fait, souvent, tu peux avoir des uniques qui n'ont pas forcément des bases super, mais qui te donnent des scalings sympas sur leurs affixes. Et qui sont où les scalings sont assez puissants pour pouvoir être des uniques que tu peux porter longtemps ensuite. Comme ça, il va sur attribut, ouais, ce genre de truc, effectivement.
Things like, in fact, there's even more crafting stuff we had. Like, there were entire crafting benches that we have designed and practically like 80% implemented and then discarded. It's just like a huge amount of that stuff.
We can do this or some other way, some
exactly.
cool way. Yeah, so like, because I saw that there's like, oh, you can bench craft a thing and then it changes the unique and it has a new modifier. But now you've also got a rune that steals modifiers off uniques as well. I had no idea.
Why
about.
not?
Why not? You like making more work for yourselves these days. It seems to be a running theme. I keep saying this to you. Like, why do you do this? Like, why do you do this?
Yeah.
Why do you make it so you have to like from now on you always have to look at all the modifiers on gloves?
100%. So yeah, because of that monk ascendancy, now every unique we ever make that's a glove unique, we have to design extra mods that it changes to.
Ça c'est l'enfer pour eux, hein, l'histoire des gants là qui transforment l'essence qui transforme les gants. Là, comment te doubler ton espace de bugs possibles, etc. et d'oubli en un point d'ascendance. C'est malade.
Other access on that. All these new runes we've added, all of them. Remember that shaman that has that whole bonded modifier on every rune that we need to also add?
Oh là là.
Wow.
So does that apply to the ones that come from uniques like that?
TBD. We're going to try. Yes, we are going to try to do it. Yes, but the idea is all of them will work. Yes.
So that's like there's some really unusual ones too, because there's runes that are designed to just be put into an item to metacraft and then be replaced. Right?
I'm really proud of that one actually, because I really like the way that it's like doing metacrafting in a more understandable way, I reckon, than what PoE1 had. So you put the item in, you can start rolling different mods, but then you can take it out again by putting another rune on top. So
and
I really
I
like
guess
it.
there's going to be maybe some process where you put one of those in, do a craft, and
Ouais,
then
c'est pas mal comme idée ça.
Almost certainly.
Ouais, des metacraft là de runes
We got
pour rouler des affixes spéciales.
Chronomancy mods on boots. You got like a berserking themed one for helmet. There's like a kind of decay damage over time one for gloves, and there's a few others there. So we've kind of tried to theme them as well.
Yeah, that's like even a different thing to what we've had in the past with meta mods. Like that's not just shaping how we access the.
Moi je vois pas trop ça comme un métamode, hein. Moi je vois plutôt ça comme un système d'influence. Ça ressemble plus à un système d'influence, je trouve. L'influence de PoE1, pour ceux qui connaissent pas, mais c'est bon, dans ma commu, je pense que tout le monde connaît. Mais qui te permettent d'avoir une influence spéciale sur ton item qui autorise certains modes supplémentaires à roller. C'est ça que ça me fait penser, moi, les runes. Un système d'influence, mais que tu puisses retirer ensuite.
Current modifiers, but rather new modifier pools entirely getting added to items.
I mean, we also have that new modifier pool thing going on with Breach as well, where with the new minion set of mods and the new caster set of mods on rings and stuff like that. Like,
Crazy.
But the thing is, part of the reason for this is because we really wanted to make sure. So one of the things we're in the sort of early design phase of this is we're kind of like every league needs to have something that you're going to keep, like, if you want to grind Justice League, that there's a thing that, like, a reward that, like, you can keep on, that keeps on giving, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That there's, like, a reason to keep on doing this, like, economically. So therefore, every league has to have some kind of crafting system that you can engage with for a very long period of time. And like, we didn't quite have that, because like some of the leagues sort of had that a bit before, but now we want to make sure that every league definitely has something along those lines. So that, you know, just a reason to keep going.
Yeah, people can absolutely find like a niche, a thing, a service they provide the community or whatnot, which I quite like to see, especially the Breach Tree getting really
les
deep
influences, c'est
cuts
très
on some of
complexe
those
quand même.
things that you can do there, and now with the runes and everything as well.
Ah, c'est un sacré système.
So for the back to the runes of Eldor, you're not actually needing to like find those runes that you're inscribing on those encounters, right? Because I wasn't quite.
Voilà.
Thematically, that's how it works. But in reality, the way that you'll engage with it is when you find a rune that's sort of inscribed on a thing, then like all the recipes that relate to that rune will be displayed, except for that there's a few hidden ones that you have to do some quests to get. So there's some more quests throughout the campaign, and also some stuff in endgame that you can do to unlock a few more recipes.
Yeah, but you're not having to like physically like cart these sorts of things around.
No. There's nothing like
Okay.
that. So effectively, like you're just picking from the book every time. So like if you want to just
Pas
look at
besoin
this as,
du
like,
coup
you know,
d'avoir les
walk
runes
up to
physiquement.
the object, there's some recipes, just pick which item you want. That's effectively how you can engage with it. But thematically, there's kind of more stuff going on with the way that the recipes form and what we decide to put in stuff.
So you showed that these remnants, then this new remnant system, obviously it shares the
Donc il a confirmé qu'il y avait des recettes un peu secrètes. Certaines doivent être débloquées via la quête de saison.
name with remnants from expeditions themselves.
Correct.
And in endgame, it actually replaces those remnants. So you are still finding these standalone remnants from the League mechanic, like in maps as well as expeditions.
Correct. So yeah, every area there'll be a remnant, and you do the sort of standalone remnant mechanic. But then when you do expeditions, all the what used to be called remnants there have been replaced by these remnants, which serve a similar purpose because they both give you an extra reward, but also make the monsters harder.
Ok, c'est intéressant ça aussi. Donc ils disent, donc il y a une fusion avec expédition. Dans les expéditions, c'est pas à partir de l'acte 4, du coup, c'est à partir de l'endgame. Hein. Dans l'endgame, les vestiges peuvent apparaître dans les expéditions et en influencer les monstres, difficultés et récompenses.
And even just making the monsters harder in itself, by the way, does add more rarity to the monsters. So, like, the more runes that you
Arrêtez, la rareté est toujours là.
the
Confirme.
the more rewards you're going to get. So it's worth doing, even aside from the reward that you're picking. There's still like extra juice that you're adding to the monsters as well.
We've effectively got a more unified monster mod system now, and so anytime we're pretty much adding mods to monsters, be it now runes, and we've even updated delirium mods to apply to the same system. They all go through the same. They all add. There's like a rarity, XP, life, etc. columns, and so we're just trying to make sure that there's a whereas before it's like system over here, system over here, system over here. They're different reward axes, and we're just trying to make sure it's all difficulty equals reward.
Right, and that's the key thing. Like, we always want to make sure that whatever the difficulty we're adding, we're always adding rewards in kind. And a lot of the stuff in PoE 2, I mean, it's been quite hard to balance it, but it's one of those things that, if you get it right, then it feels right. And if it doesn't, then you kind of don't know why things feel off and like why things is like, this thing's too hard and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So on that topic, actually, so each of these runes has its own different modifiers that it does to make monsters harder. Is that something you can kind of engage with? You're like choosing the recipes?
So when you're choosing the recipe, you're also choosing what mods effectively go on it, because each rune that you're inscribing effectively comes with like, the thing that the monster's going to do. So there are definitely situations where you might want to decide to like pick something easier because you don't particularly like this mechanic or whatever, but it means you're missing out on whatever item is in that recipe. So like the goal there is that the harder, like the rarer the item, the harder the runes are that will be, the rune modifiers that will be added to the monsters.
Makes sense.
There's some pretty, like in expeditions and what we're now calling grand expeditions, because as what people knew as logbooks before.
The logbook is
the logbook is now is exploring the ocean. So,
it's actually a thing,
You get the cool things where, okay, let's say there's like 12 remnants and you want to get them all in the detonation chain.
Ouh, donc là il confirme qu'il peut y avoir plusieurs remnants à la fois dans les grosses expéditions. L'océan. Intéressant ça.
Each remnant you do the fight, and then one of those runes is passed on to be additive with the next. So it doesn't manipulate. So effectively, the monsters have the mods of the remnant, and then all of the next remnant's monsters have one of those runes as well as all the ones they had. So every remnant's harder than the next, getting more and more and more mods. And you can imagine if you go down 12, you can have technically up to 22 extra mods, which you'll notice the reason why we don't display a whole bunch of lines of text on it, and we instead have the bar of actual runic symbols.
So you can mouse over those or something, can you? Like to see the modifiers?
You were meant to be able to, but probably not right now.
There's this thing that we'll do later, which is this pause rework.
Yes.
I'm going to just spoil it now because it's like one of those things that we're going to do. But effectively, the intention for frickin' ages has been, we just haven't had time to do it yet, that when you pause the game, you can mouse over all of the different things and find information about them. So the intention would be to be able to expand all of that stuff, like so look at all buffs and explore like what exact stats they give and that kind of stuff. If you want to do that, we've just been planning on doing it for ages, but we didn't get around to it. But,
I've been really keen on that.
Yeah.
Do note when you are the runes do say what they do on the remnant, and when the one that moves onto the next remnant has an extra icon above it.
It's not actually moving on all of them, because I was going to say, because it's kind of like each remnant has a lot of modifiers. So it's not. Is it?
So let's say you have a remnant with 5 runes.
Yeah.
One of them will have a symbol above it, and that one forwards onto the next remnant. And so you can do a little bit of.
You can have a crazy encounter, but the next one is maybe not as bad. You're like, oh, maybe if I just make it through that, it'll be okay in the next part of the expedition.
Yeah, but then so the order of them kind of matters as well. And then, let's say obviously each remnant gives a reward. There's a little bit of a more. If you're a juicer, so to speak, you're going to want to do a thing where you're like, okay, I want to get as many runes as possible. And so you want to kind of do things like avoiding overlaps. You want to make sure the last remnant has the most amount of runes, probably. And there's all these like different little things you can think about to try and
expedition. Then
there is, yes, and it's the kind of thing where people are like, I'm going to try and squeeze the most amount of rewards out of these out. Or if you just want to just go blow up a bunch of stuff, also that's completely fine.
On that note, extreme archaeology is still a thing with this new system, then. The giant explosion?
Not in the direct sense.
How do you mean?
Well, not with grand logbooks.
Right. Well, with the regular encounters and maps. That was always
I believe it's on one of the master nodes.
Oh, yeah, cool.
I need to double check that because I can't be sure, but I believe it is. Yes, we are.
Yeah, that was always the thing for regular expedition encounters anyway, right?
But obviously you don't want that in a grand expedition because you're just like, well, okay, I'll get 1% of the island, I guess. Yeah, for the regular ones, it should be there.
Yeah, awesome.
But
cool.
If it's not,
it's funny though. Like there's also a sort of hidden amount of work that we sort of glossed over there as well in all of the like logbook islands, like what used to be called logbooks, but now the Grand Expedition Islands.
Yeah.
Like we put a lot of effort into like making a bunch of unique islands with weird shit. Like like every one of them has got like unique things to fight and blow up that like are kind of weird.
So it's not just a bunch of generic maps with expeditions in it.
Yeah. They're actually got a lot of effort put into them in terms of every one of them has 2 to 3 things that only spawn there that are interesting. So yeah, there's quite a bit there too. Like it's kind of like we didn't want to spoil too many of them because it's quite fun like finding out, oh, maybe this will explode, maybe that'll explode. There's like things like that you can do, but it's quite a fun one.
There's even like there's like special logbooks you can find now that a logbook is just you click it to reveal a section of the ocean. We have one that you can get that you can turn on, and then when you click it, all of the islands revealed have extra modifiers on them, like expedition themed modifiers, so like more explosives, more radius, and a whole bunch of stuff like that you can get late game.
Yeah, I guess kind of somewhat filling the role of how towers work in the rest of the Atlas as well, but for the islands. Like an AoE craft of maps.
Well, but then you also have ones that reveal, like, guarantee Olroth will be there, for example. So it's like a little bit, which is a way to trade for like then getting Olroth kills.
Spicy.
Of course.
Nice. And
Not that you can always, of course, just trade for like the pinnacle boss.
Ok,
keys and
intéressant.
stuff,
Ouais.
Yes,
yeah.
but
But,
Ok.
he's not the fake pinnacle anymore.
right.
And you are actually using regular Waystone, so you can kind of juice up
Yeah.
the expedition maps, the grand expedition
Exactly.
maps now,
Yes, you can.
potentially quite a bit. That's pretty juicy. It seems. I think you kind of mentioned, Jonathan, that it feels a little bit like Delve in some ways.
Yeah, it is a little bit. So the exploring there is sort of supposed to feel that way because it's one of those like sort of infinite expanses that you can go down.
Delve the ocean.
Yeah.
Delve
I
the
mean,
sideways.
I still want to make proper Delve one day, but at least we've got this.
You also don't have to run around the islands reading all those giant blocks of text anymore, hoping
Yes.
to not get some.
Oh, you remind me actually. So with the runes, is there modifiers like immune to fire damage and can't leech from them and stuff like that? It's
No.
good. They're just gone. Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Just more traditional
Bien, ça.
modifiers, and then there's
Humilité.
a set at the top. Like there's
good.
one called Power Rune, which is the rarest. It takes every mod and makes it tier 2. So there's some meta-y ones, and then there's the ones some we showed, and there's one that causes all monsters spawned by the remnant to share a life pool. So. Which is actually crazy and also very satisfying. Like
Kind of sounds fun, yeah.
The funny thing about this is that if it had been a normal live stream where we're just doing a league, like so much more of the stuff we probably would have delved into.
Yeah,
but instead,
sure.
because we had so much in-game stuff as like other things as
Instead,
well.
you're doing like 5 leagues.
Yeah, exactly.
So you couldn't really
there's-
show any of this stuff.
Yeah. There's tons of like hidden stuff.
It's like,
in there.
I can't believe you glazed over this thing where like a rune steals a unique modifier.
Yeah,
That would have been like a
exactly.
core system you showed off in another one.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like, oh yeah, we didn't have time. We had to cut it for time.
Well, I mean,
Like,
another one of those we cut for time was the ability to upgrade runes. There's a thing that will upgrade a rune that's already in your in your gear.
Yeah, you can get like a perfect.
So you get a
iron rune.
perfect rune of any rune can be upgraded past the normal level that it could normally go to using one of those. Like it's called the Masterwork rune.
Rub your runes
So
together.
there's stuff like that as well. Like, there's all sorts of
which
stuff.
you can then do incursion, extract, and trade. By the way, just to be clear.
Yeah, because there's the incursion rune lets you
I
extract
forgot
stuff.
about that thing.
Yeah, so you can actually
wild.
trade those the upgraded ones if you wanted to.
Oh yeah, and you've got another category of ones that absolutely can't be removed. And I assume not with that either. because
Yeah.
they're
So that's like the
they're
dual
like-
socket thing.
It's
And stuff
almost
like
like
that.
vialing an item
Yeah,
that's done.
Yeah.
This is where you're going to get the weird economy where the upgrader item is for some reason cheaper or something than the rune that's taken out of that. There'll be some weird, someone's extracted a perfect rune because that's like an abnormal thing you got to do incursion, and the upgrader item is like for some reason going to have a weird price differential to the rune. It's gonna be it's always
It's
the
going to be
case.
a wild economy. I mean, not to mention just like 100 new runes in general. That's kind of like rather a lot, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
it's a lot of
few.
runes.
It's a few.
I think it's 160.
160 now,
Yeah.
jeez.
But it is the runes of Elder, like you
That's
know.
right.
If we didn't have some runes in it, it would,
Sans sorte nouvelle rune, ils ont exagéré là-dessus.
Elder League otherwise.
And that's not even all. Like there's the alloy crafting too, which is like
Yeah.
we're gonna make a version of their essence crafting because of course you
exactly,
do, right?
exactly.
Yeah, so do you view this league just as like it was a crafting focused league from the outset? But it was
I mean, we knew. I mean, the Risitop stuff. Like they're known as like a whole culture of blacksmiths and
Yeah.
like doing stuff, right? So they're
Makes
gonna,
sense.
yeah, they're gonna do some crafting.
Do you think there is like a too much for crafting options, or is there some way that this is like kind of segmenting out that makes it feel like it's still manageable?
Well, I'd like to think it's manageable. Honestly, I find the rune stuff. I mean, you can always add more socketable type things like this because every time you find one, it's just a thing in itself. And by the way, this is one of the reasons why we steered away from like too many crafting bench type things. We've got like mega lists.
Yeah.
It's honestly way cooler to find an item and then like, okay, now this is a physical thing that I've got. So yeah, like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you'll notice the Verisia Metallurgy one we have, the rune smithing, rune forging, whatever the names we ended up going with, it's just here's your
Ouais,
input,
j'espère.
here's your output.
Exactly.
That's it.
So that one can be simple. You don't need to have the giant. I think that the giant lists are part of what scare people off from crafting as well.
Yeah.
So I think doing it the way we've done it here is honestly more new player friendly than the kind of than the giant list you feel like you need to understand when you see it.
Yeah,
But of course, as these things go core, we'll see what works, we'll see what doesn't
Yeah.
work, we'll see what worked in endgame and didn't, because again, once the things are core, how they appear in the campaign, you don't know. Maybe these things work really well in the campaign and need to be pulled into a system that's more campaign friendly without having to have remnants in every area and stuff like that. So it's always nice to keep an eye on that and see what works, what's good for onboarding, what's good for campaign progression, what's all of that kind of stuff. I mean, honestly, all of this stuff, if you're using it all, you're going to be significantly more powerful in the campaign. We have a bunch of those kind of purple runes, those powerful runes appearing throughout the campaign that you can get from the remnants as well, and like they do.
Was that even in the live stream? The purple.
Some of them were, I think,
Okay.
but like there's the rune for bows that gives you 50% chance for an additional arrow, and like that.
Ooh.
It's not like that's end game. That's just early. Now, of course, you're going to get the thing of like, do I want to use it early or do I want to save it till late? Because it depends on how many you get and all of that. But like, the power is there if you need to use it and if you want to use it. So it's kind of up to you. And if they're abundant enough, go for
C'est la
it.
Q&A qui a suivi le
To go
reveal.
back to your original question as well, we do sort of want to make sure that each of the crafting systems does like have specific domains most of the time.
Yeah.
So in the case of the breach one again, like that's about jewelry crafting if you're into like these specific things, and in particular you've got the caster and minion stuff as well.
Yeah.
So you're kind of looking at that and you're like, okay, like if I need to cast create some minion jewelry, then like this is the league I'm playing. But then if I'm not having to create that, then I don't have to necessarily understand that one. So we do try to like we're trying to make sure that it's not like for every
C'est
single
choisi par
item slot,
YouTube.
every single use case you have to know about every crafting system. Like there are specific ones that can help with specific areas.
Yeah, okay. And you can look into that. And that does divide it down a little bit more.
Yeah,
Just make it a bit more
that's kind of the
digestible
intention.
chunks.
This was actually one of those things we discussed way back in the early days of PoE 2 about how we would differentiate crafting from PoE 1. Is like try to have a little bit more segregation of the different crafting systems and different item slots.
Yeah, exactly. So you've also got this other crafting system in this because we're not finished through that list yet. But, so you can use rune forging to upgrade items, including unique items, to like increase their base damage, or give maybe some armors new rolls with ward and things like that as well. This is like another route to modifying uniques, which you've been doing a little experimenting a bit more with over time. And this has an ability to change affixes on uniques as well, right?
Correct.
So
the changing affixes part, I believe, is mostly the Kalguran uniques where it does that. Is that not correct?
Can you tell what is a Kalguran unique?
We are going to add a way for you to tell what's Ezomite Kalguran, because Val for the other one as well.
For the weapons, it's mostly about increasing the base damage to make it so that a low level unique can actually be something you can use in endgame. Because there's obviously a lot of uniques there that are interesting but not viable for endgame because they just don't have the damage. So that's kind of like one of the main things we're solving. And then for the armors, it's all about like being able to make that ward versus other defense trade off. As well.
For the Kalguran uniques, what we've tried to do is have that, because most of the Kalguran uniques are endgame, right? That's just, drops from Olroth, drops from the new Pinnacle, a few others. And we've tried to have multiple outcomes for them, and you don't get to pick. So, for example, there's a new shield being added. And it is a strength dex shield, so armor evasion, and it comes with raised shield, and it has some mechanics around that. In the Verisium bench, you can put it in, you can craft, and it can turn into a full ES base, a full evasion base with parry, or a full strength base with raised shield. So you can, if you want to get away from it being hybrid, and like that's just one example. Now you might have to get a few of them to get the one you want. Deal with it. But for all of them, that's kind of the idea. Is like some are just mods, some are a bit more transformative. There's just like, okay, there's a weapon, and one of the outcomes might be that it's just higher damage, slower speed. One of it might be that converts all of its damage to lightning, like it's got a Tempest theme. One of it might be that, there's like just a whole bunch of different stuff like that, and like some of them are a bit more niche, some of them are a bit more spike. But the idea is that there's generally we're going to try and aim for 3 different outcomes for every Kalguran unique.
Ok, du coup, intéressant ça. Il va y avoir plusieurs versions. Spécifique, peut y avoir plusieurs versions.
There are some other niche cases. I don't want to like spoil them because by the way, there's more crafting things. I'm just not going to tell you because they're secret.
Okay.
I'm getting all my secrets in, but I hope people can find them out and enjoy it. But yes, there are some other things as well that are a bit more out there. One that isn't so secret, but like there's the questions of like what happens if you try and add runic ward to something that has no defenses to begin with.
Dans le tableau là.
Rather, you know, like there's like weird things where it's like, what happens when you convert nothing into something? I don't know, you know. So,
Divide by zero.
and then there's some other weird cases as well. So, yeah.
Interesting. Well, there's going to be a lot of exploration and tinkering, and it seems like a long tail of discovery for this league as well.
Yeah.
Months in, people might be still discovering stuff. That's it's pretty exciting to hear. With the uniques in general, like I think this crafting, the ability to modify uniques, change how they work a little bit, has been pretty popular. Do you feel like, are you worried at all about like losing the identity of uniques, or what makes them uniques, or what is the feel of a unique, or do you have kind of like an idea of how you can maintain them?
I think that it'll be possible to break that, but I don't think that we have here, because at the end of the day, the uniques are still like each serving a specific purpose, and that is different from rares and how they work. You know, like so. I think it is okay. Like what I wouldn't want to do is just be like, oh, now a bunch of rare mods can spawn on uniques. Like I'm not a fan of that at all. So as long as we're not doing that, I think it's okay. I mean, look, we do push the boundaries. Like, even just the fact that uniques have socketables that go in them kind of changes things a bit. But I think a lot of the time when you do that, you're not really looking at that as like the unique has got random mods. It sort of feels more like it's just an extra place for things to go on your character. So I think it still works in terms of the flavor of what a unique is supposed to be.
Yeah, it feels like a separate layer. Yeah, I guess a lot of the time you are changing one unique modifier for another unique modifier that's like a twist on the original concept, so it still retains that identity for quite a lot there as well. So kind of like transitioning. Oh wait, first I did want to ask about the Runic Ward thing. So Runic Ward obviously has undergone a bit of a redesign, a bit of a concept change here. It's now a layer under your life. How did you arrive at this design? Kind of what's the reason for it?
Well, once again, we were thinking, okay, we want to be able to make.
Est-ce que ça enable des trucs particuliers, le fait que ce soit low life comme ça? Parce que avec la ward de PO1, t'es quand même tout le temps full live du coup. Enfin, tu vois, si t'as une ward qui tourne bien. Et là, à l'inverse, la ward, tu peux utiliser peut-être pour être tout le temps à 0 de life. Je me rends pas trop compte des montants que tu puisses accumuler. Pour accumuler, pardon. Tu sais, si tu fais un build à genre. Tu mets aucune life, t'as genre, je sais pas, 300 HP, mais t'as 2000 de ward. Tu vas faire tout le temps ta vie à 0. Franchement, il y a peut-être des synergies low life qui peuvent être assez balèzes. Surtout que tout à l'heure on a vu qu'il y avait du scaling sur la ward. C'est curieux de savoir si on pourra faire vraiment faire des builds autour de ça. De rab. Enabler low life.
A magic system that feels like it's fundamentally different than what you'd have on Rayclast. We were trying to think like, okay, how do I say this? So I feel like I've lost myself here, but yeah, like I guess it is really just coming, something that feels a little bit different. And we wanted to make colorless skills, right? We wanted to make a thing where these skills can be used across classes. So all of those skills we want to be used. But so we didn't really feel like we would be able to use an energy system that wasn't independent of the existing ones that we had.
Right. Yeah.
And so then we're like, okay, if we make something here where you get to be able to trade some level of defensiveness for offense because you're spending effectively part of your life pool, then we'd be able to make a system there. But we probably couldn't have used life, because if we'd done that, there's so many other things that like are going on with life that wouldn't have really been able to, that wouldn't have been able to work. So hence, ward. I mean, it's just a completely different thing than what ward was in PoE 1. We just sort of used the term, but it means something completely different in PoE 2.
I think it's just a significant upgrade from PoE 1's, just like kind of one-shot energy shield. I mean, that was like hard carried by uniques. Whereas this is a way more, just applicable system. You can just have a little bit of it, and you're just happy to have a little bit of extra life. Effectively, works way better in the campaign. Works just as more of an isolated system, and doesn't need to have like, okay, here's now 4 unique mechanics, and now my ward is a build, which is fine. If it's all in-game, that's fine, but like you were talking about having something in the campaign here, a full league and a system we want to engage with and get some, borrowed power out of via these skills and whatnot, and so, yeah, it just works a lot better.
One thing I should mention with the ward is that in the early base types, it's usually strict upgrades. Like if you're during early in the campaign, you're not trading off anything; you just get extra bonuses. But as you get into the end game, that's where those bases start to be like, okay, in order to have more ward, we're going to be trading off your other defenses, and that means that when we finally do potentially move it into core, it's going to be it'll be a question of like, do I want to go for it's not going to be something mandatory, because if it had just been always additive, it would have been that every single person needs to put ward on every single base type, and we don't want it to be that way in the end game. We want it to be, once it gets there, it's like a choice of like, do I want to engage with this, do I not want to? So that was kind of an important consideration there at the end.
We've actually also handcrafted every outcome, so every single, generally how you would expect this kind of thing to be done. Here's the formula, it converts. Right. We've just gone and said, let's do it manually for everything, which means it was a metric amount of metadata to add.
Every base type we add has to have the ward, the rune-crafted rune forged version.
At endgame, you get some cool stuff where base type A might become very, very heavy on runic ward, where base type B might have just a little bit, and some are in the middle, and some sacrifice a bit more defense where others don't, and then the same with the uniques. You're getting like crazy different outcomes where it's a similar thing. Where it's like, what is Calm's Heart going to do? What's Brass Dome going to do? There's like different kind of things that people are going to play around with, and it's like, is it worth it? And the good thing is you can, of course, see the outcome before you do it with these non-random ones on armors. I
didn't realize that.
When you have both the slots, if you mouse over the right one, it will show what you're going to get, except for like those Calgary unique outcomes, like I said. So that's a bit more special. But most of the time, you can see what you're going to get. So if you're just like, oh, no, I don't want to lose that armor, then don't lose that armor. So but there's some crazy stuff. You'll get some runic ward stackers. You'll get some people that just have a supplemental amount just to stack, maybe just enough to use a skill or just enough to use a support, and you'll get people who are just trying to spam the skills as much as they possibly can. You'll have some people that have low amounts stacking higher regen of it, and like all kinds of stuff is the goal, all done via the metallurgy, the runes, the different skills, like the whole suite is there, so there's just all kinds of stuff you can do.
Yeah, and on the topic of the Kalguran skills, this is like, especially because this is like something that gets asked all the time, is like, can we have more weapon agnostic skills? Things that kind of like blur those boundaries a little bit now that you've got those established. What's the design process or the goal, or how you approaching? So it's a little bit tricky because we have to make sure that these things are going to be things that can be used across classes. Like I don't want to just be like, okay, this one's only for like one particular character, and it needs to kind of span them, and that means they tend to need to work with things like existing debuffs and existing buffs. We've got one that generates they've got various things that that just play with all of those different mechanics. So like the example we gave in the presentation of like converting fire to frost fire, like that kind of thing. Like there's a lot of different builds, a lot of different character classes that be able to play with that. And ideally that means that it can just open up the different different ways to be able to synergize between different mechanics all over the place. And then because they spend ward rather than some other resource, it means that there's no issue there either. Yeah, potentially slot into any build and don't have attribute requirements or colors.
That's the other thing, of course. They don't have strength, dex, and attribute requirements. They just have level requirements. So that way, the
Kalgurans are a little bit more ahead of Ray class times, it seems. Oh wow.
There's a bit more of a technological magic, isn't it?
It's cool that it's often the case when we add these things, it can feel a bit shallow. Like it can feel like here's this whole new magic system, but only there's this little amount. Whereas here, I feel like we've actually gone, here's this whole magic system, like here's a taste of it, and like in some cases, like sure, 25 skills now, we'll see what happens later, and like there's things to expand on, unless they're of course terrible, in which case they never existed, you know what I mean? But I mean for the long-term health of the game. But you get this thing where it's like it really feels like, with respect to the Kalguran magic, the Kalguran technology, we're just like getting further and further and really learning more and more about how these people gain their power, how it's different from everything on Rayclast, and like it's honestly been just quite cool. And like Runic Ward, as I said, it feels way more than just like, it feels pretty core. Like it doesn't feel like this just secondary thing. Not that you have to do it, it's not mandatory, but it feels core when you do engage with it, which is very cool. And I wouldn't say we've gone this deep into like a extra resource system and thing like in any league ever before, not in this regard. So
Yeah, it's like usually just like some map thing, you collect petals or something.
Yeah.
Seems a bit more engaging than that, a bit more fundamental character builds. Okay. Well, it seems like that's something you would probably want to keep long term then as well, like as long as it works.
Yeah, I mean, if it works, then we will.
Yeah, if people like it ultimately. Since we're talking a lot about gear, just kind of zooming out to a bit broader picture, some outstanding issues from our last meeting. If I consult the minutes here, plus skills is often brought up as something that's has a very high level of impact on your gearing choices and can feel for some, I think, a bit restrictive as just because it's so much stronger than other
We did have a big
options.
conversation about that. I can't remember what we finally decided on there.
Yeah, it's one of those dexterity-like conversations.
Yeah. This is a
I
while
think
ago.
we are trimming a few levels off the top.
Yeah, that's right.
and
Ooh, okay.
More so, we're trimming some off the top and moving some of it up so that there's still a high-level mod. But doing that for the weapon mods. But like, there's more
Ça
to
faut
do
avoir le patch
here,
note pour le détailler ça.
for sure.
C'est pas encore changé.
I would say that given the like this league in particular, like I remember we started it and we were like, here's all the things that we've discussed we need to fix, we need to do all this, and then it was like, oh, and here's the like 8,000 other balance runes and crafting systems and everything we want to do and new classes, and it was like new versus existing having a bit of a conflict, and we were so
But
I
qu'il y a
wouldn't
personne
say
qui
we
mette le
got to do
timestamp.
as much of the balance fix up to a lot of the stuff we've discussed previous that we wanted to do here, but as you were talking about at the start of the
celui-là.
Q&A,
Bien.
like that is and what Jonathan said is that is a lot of what we want to do, while we have the team making the acts.
Yeah.
Like that's a different
On va
kind
pas
of
tout regarder,
balance.
on
We
va,
don't have,
on va
you
jumper
know,
au truc intéressant.
you're not adding runes and crafting systems to the acts in the same way.
Très
right?
intéressant,
It's
la
just-
balance.
It's a
Freed
different
up to-
team. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Freed up to be able to work on all of those kinds of larger balance
You
concerns.
can pretty much do some balance leagues between
We
now
do,
and-
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And we do have a big list of stuff we want to change there. Like, there's
it
a
is
lot.
it is a list.
Which isn't to say that we didn't do some balance for this. For this
I
one.
expected you to do almost none on this one, given the scope.
No,
of
there's
what you're
definitely
wanting
some.
to do.
There's
You actually
some
have done a few,
important ones too.
Yeah.
Which we'll cover a few of those.
Got
yeah.
like some chronomancer stuff. There's we're doing a bunch of stuff, but honestly, it honestly just is as much as we can, to be honest. Like we're not sitting idly not doing it, but yeah, like I understand that there's a few things which I assume you're going to bring up a couple others that are left unresolved, and
Certainly.
hopefully maybe one of them's resolved. We'll see.
Well, the next one was Rarity, reprising our earlier discussions on Rarity from the last Q&A, where you were saying that you were eager to at some point remove Rarity from.
I am interested in doing that. It's still a question of what we can replace it with. But there is one other change to talk about around
Ok,
that.
donc là, c'est les
that is
décisions
more
un peu
subtle, and
épineuses.
I don't know whether it will matter or
Alors,
not.
IT plus
But
level.
one of the things we identified, I mean, look, the thing people often say with Rarity is they just don't want it to give currency.
Yeah,
That's like a common thing that they'll say. Like people who say they want to keep Rarity, they'll often say, "Oh, but it should. You could just remove the currency from it, and then it'll be okay." So what we were thinking about is like, there's a sort of market dynamic that goes on in PoE 1, but hadn't been going on in PoE 2 so much, where people couldn't really respond in PoE 2 to the market by like picking the reward type that they would like to get as much.
Yeah.
So in PoE 1, it's like if currency is becoming more valuable, you can respond to that by farming leagues that give you more currency. And if uniques are becoming like more valuable, then you can respond to that by farming more uniques and that kind of stuff. So there was like a little bit of an aim here to make it so that the league's a little bit more like by picking what league you're also picking more of what types of rewards you want to get a little bit better, which can mean that like if there's a gap in the market, you can fill it that way, and that should result in like more price. We're getting total economist here right now, but it'll mean that people can respond to the price signals that the market is giving them by farming the correct thing to like get the thing that like the market is valuing more right now.
So we're actually seeing that phenomenal difference between the two games on like the economic statistic level.
Well, I think it's not so much looking at the statistics, but just realizing that like without the ability for players to do that, it can mean that you can get endless inflation in one thing because people aren't able to respond to that by effectively getting more of that thing to drive the prices down again. So that kind of stuff actually can matter. And so one of the things we have been doing is making it so that
C'est vrai que ça, c'est un problème dans PoE2. Hein. Toutes les saisons, t'as des inflations débiles.
get more of this thing, and like even with regard to something like Breach, because you can pick like there's mods for picking what type of womb gift is going to drop more often. You can be like, okay, if currency is more valuable right now, I'm going to pick that one. That's the I'm going to have that tree be the one that I'm getting more of, and that kind of stuff. So it's like giving a little bit more control over what the rewards are, which should actually lead to a bit more price stabilization here as well. But we'll see how that works. Like I don't know whether that's actually one of the things, but it does seem related to the fact that in PoE 2, since Rarity effectively boosts everything, it meant that like that mechanic wasn't letting it be one of the levers that people could use to respond to the market that way.
Yeah, exactly. You were just going to do it because it was clear.
Sorry, guys, for turning into an economist all of a sudden, but it's like
I like it. I like it.
It's one of those things.
I think it's just ignoring the whole economy aspect, it just gives players agency to target what type of loot they want anyway, right?
Yeah, for
How
sure.
is that not just straight up just
sure.
better for like, here's what I need, here's what I want, I'm going to go get it, and here's the different levers I have to be able to achieve that, be it via choosing a different league, be it by choosing different multi-choice atlas tree things within that league, be it by picking a certain master and taking a certain Atlas Master skill that
Mais sur
changes
PO2,
the
c'est bien pire,
rewards of
non?
one of the leagues. Like, there's many different axes here,
PO2,
which is
ça a
very,
aucun sens,
very
là.
cool to just be like, all right, we're going to try and get the best out of the
Comment
uniques
c'est
today,
rendu,
or we're
mais
going to try and target farm this
c'est
or
bien
that,
pire.
and like, it's just a win, even if you're just like, I don't care about inflation and all of the
Ouais,
trade
c'est ça.
and all of that. Like, it's
C'est
just,
génial.
it's just
10
good.
000
So,
divines la
win-win
miroir,
on
quoi.
that regard, hopefully,
Right.
assuming
But
the
in
economy
saying that
adapts.
doesn't necessarily mean that we're like happy with how item find stuff is. Like, there still might be changes.
Yeah, correct.
Well, it sounds like you're still eager to replace that.
Yeah, I am.
Given that you can find the
it's one of those things that's surprisingly hard, alongside Leech, alongside Dex and various other things like the forever top.
1,7 million d'exalt, le miroir.
Every time.
Yes, keep you awake at night.
And
Since we're talking
pas
economy and
APOE.
inflation, is that something you guys are kind of like interested in looking at in some way, like sinks for exalts or divines, or kind of managing
info
that sort of
disque,
stuff,
alors.
where you just kind of like
This is
see what happens?
This is a weird one because some of the perceptions that people have about like what each thing means can be backwards from what people expect. But I do think that that's gonna come down to that sort of ability for people to respond to the market. I think that's going to help.
Ok,
But
bon,
as I said,
ça
we'll
on
see.
a
If it
entendu du
doesn't help
coup.
with that stuff, then
Alors, leveling et skill level, j'en peux écouter ça. Intéressant.
topic. Something that comes up somewhat often is this idea of like, so you've got new skills getting unlocked all the way through into like late Act 4. And I always thought of this personally as like a good thing, right? Like, you've got a nice steady progression of new stuff to play with. But recently I saw some interesting reasons why people don't like this. And that's the idea that you sometimes spend hours leveling a build that it just isn't your build. Like, you play all the way through to Act 4 on some other build that you don't want to play until you get your top tier ice skill there. So I have to imagine you're like a fan of having that like long tail of progression. But there are other reasons why you kind of like want this spread. And how do you feel the idea of compressing, I don't know, maybe the main skills down to the first 30 levels or something?
that's actually not something that I've had come up before in terms of being a problem like that. So that's very interesting to think about.
I've seen. I prefer the slow unlocks personally. That's my style. I prefer.
I mean, it's certainly as a first-time player, you want it to be that you kind of get that, like, it feels like your build is still progressing as you get through the game. But it is interesting, of course, to think if you want to just speed through and you want to play a certain build, like that is certainly something interesting.
Even on like the experimentation level, so like, when
I
you
understand.
respec to a character at endgame, it's like just trash. It feels bad generally to do that because you didn't have that evolution of that build over time. And I feel like maybe if you're swapping over at level 52 to your actual build, then because that's when you get the skill, then you don't actually really have much of that progression evolution of your build to test.
It might be more of a matter of just swapping where some skills are given.
I think
like,
it
also
could be
can also
that.
be that we're not necessarily, like, it's not necessarily clear when we're creating the build, like what some skills might end up being ones that feel like main skills in
sure.
that way.
Yeah, I imagine that needs
So
review over
it's probably
time.
likely that's like one of the issues there is just like moving things around where they start.
Yeah.
It's just that we don't want something that's like too flashy to be something you get really, really early, because otherwise it feels kind of strange in the power curve. Like, you do need to feel like that level of progression of like the skills get more epic. So
I imagine like it's pretty okay to have things like those glory skills and stuff like that right down.
Bon, ça on verra
So
pour
the
le
last
nerf
row
et des
tends to always
skills,
be
etc. Ça, je pense
the
qu'il peut y avoir des trucs dans le
Like,
patch
in
notes, on
theory,
verra.
those are not things that your entire build is.
À mon avis, là, quand tu parles de balance, c'est pas fixé.
The examples that I get see brought up usually aren't that sort of thing, but rather like what's that ice skill that shoots projectiles everywhere? That round spinny one, winter something.
Is it Winter Orb? Is that the name?
Or Eye of Winter.
Eye of Winter, that's the one. Yeah, Eye of Winter
Yeah.
is an example that I see get brought up
Right.
because like it is on that last tier and it is kind of
Yeah,
a
I
main
see your
skill
point.
and it's not really like a
I
big
actually
cooldown
see
skill.
your
or something.
point. Yeah, no, that one honestly might be able to come down.
All right, so that's something to
Maybe.
I
We'll
suspect there's some tweaks to the levels. There's some reorganization. There's possibly. I mean, I could see a thing where also once we have the full campaign in place, maybe there's a point where we're like, okay, you want every skill by, and then we come up with a new point. Like.
But I honestly suspect the rearranging is the solution there.
Nice. Okay,
Sure.
that's good to hear. I think that'll be good for these people who feel like they don't get to play their build for a long time there.
Right.
Kind of carrying on with the topic of skills, builds, and balance, we have the two new ascendancies, which you seem to be getting a little bit like with the classes. They're following a similar trajectory of getting a little bit more a little bit extra, a little bit more high effort each time. So,
Well, as we kind of learned from Period 1, like we have changed some, but ascendancy classes are kind of like just forever things.
Yep.
You know, we obviously have a whole alternate classes league and stuff like that, which is cool. But we don't. On rare occasions, we're obviously going to change the balance, change kind of what the skills are, but who those characters are and the identity of that, and most of them are going to remain fixed for like a long time.
Yep.
You'll get rebalances, you'll get changes, like obviously, right? We've done that a lot, but like, I wouldn't expect the Deadeye to despawn anytime soon as an identity.
Ça, c'est un peu du blablabla en mode on buffera les classes à l'occasion, ok. Défense, ça m'intéresse.
Like a classic, another minutes from previous.
C'est un peu du éternel, ça. Donc bon.
New mechanics here and there. Is there any additional love for those on the card in some way, or defenses in general discussion?
Defenses. So we looked at a couple of things. Like the first thing we identified, because I'm all about like just reviewing the fundamentals. Is we're like, okay, we at some point in one of our many millions of spreadsheets, we were like, okay, here's obviously you have an expected amount of how much defense does someone have at a certain point in the game. Now that we have obviously enough players, enough statistics, we went and then had a look, and we were like, oh, people are way low, especially at say between interlude, act 4, mid game, early in game. People's defenses are significantly lower than what we had deemed as what we wanted them to have. And you can look at that in a few ways. You can say, well, okay, people aren't upgrading gear as much as we wanted or expected. People aren't upgrading, I wouldn't say want, expected is definitely more of the thing. People aren't maybe taking as many defensive passives as we had expected, etc. And there are obviously many reasons for that. Some of them are garbage. But at the end of the day, right, we balance the game for people to have this much of a defense or this much EHP, and they don't have it. So let's get them to have that amount is our play. So instead of obviously changing, you could either change monster damage at that point, or we can give people more defenses. So we are generally buffing all of the base types on all of the defensive gear, on all armor and evasion, I should say, up to the end of endgame, because like peak characters, there's a lot. You can get a lot. So like we've taken some of the outliers that are the things that make the end game characters have a lot of those defenses and kind of brought them a bit down. So it shouldn't be worse. It should just be the same. But relative to rares, they could be a little bit worse. But yeah, ultimately,
this is mostly from Act 3 onwards, right?
Pretty much, yeah. So more armor and evasion is the start point. We've done a whole bunch of other stuff. Like, I mean, Energy Shield there's a thing where it has too much recovery available, like too easily for recharge, and like we've done a few things. A lot of them are outliers, not necessarily all of them. So we've done a bit of changes to a whole bunch of stuff. But in particular, we're also doing like the deflection equation is honestly kind of not good enough. It's too rewarding for very little investment, and then there's like a kind of weird thing in the formula that I was trying to figure out the other day. But,
ils ont dire que c'est pour ce patch là.
And then for investing beyond that, it's kind of like, well, not worth it.
Yeah.
The passive tree nodes are too weak. There's all these clusters there no one cares about, well, mostly. There's other things like the armor applies to elemental, like there's a bit of it. Generally it isn't weak, but I wanted 5 clusters for it. I wanted you to be able to actually invest in it if you were in different parts of the tree. Currently there's only like 3 nodes that grant it in the strength section. It's not enough. And then all the way through to like things like the hybrid section of the passive tree, where normally you have armor in the strength section. Over here you have evasion in the dex section, and then combined you should have both of them on the nodes. And you do for armor and evasion, and then you have I know, big rant here. Then you have things where like, okay, all the armor and evasion notables are like kind of hyper conditional. Some of them don't even grant armor and evasion, and so there's just like a ton of work across the board. And then those secondary defenses don't generally have hybrid nodes, which they should. So if you're now playing hybrid, you have to double invest in the secondary axes, and so there's just all kinds of just like, honestly, what I would establish as fundamental problems going on here that just need to all be addressed. And when I look at all of them, I'm like, well, they all are just buffing it so that's great.
Awesome.
Except for like a little bit of energy shield problems, which I
Ah,
mean,
ça.
you know, other hybrid going more northeast, like we looked at all evasion, pure evasion versus pure evasion with 1,000 energy shield or more kind of thing, as in a ghost dance user.
Yep.
And like the differential in power of using ghost dance with 1k ES is just out of control. And I know everyone will be like, make everything like that. That's how this works. We're not going to do that. So like ghost dance needs some changes, but then also playing hybrid without that needs to be brought up. So there's a whole bunch. And then also, I mean, the highest death rate, just to be clear, and by 300%, is armor ES, which I don't have an exact plan for yet, but
Ah bah
that
ça.
needs a lot of love.
There's a missing piece
C'est ce
to
qu'on a
the
essayé de
puzzle.
jouer ça. Armure OS, on a essayé de jouer ça dernière saison là. C'était quand même très inférieur à ce qu'on avait pu jouer en genre en évasion OS, etc. les saisons d'avant. En fait, il te manque la J-Sora quoi.
So
Clairement.
it's obvious, right? You look at
Dans PoE1, t'as soit J-Sora, soit Svalin dans ces builds là. Et là, en tant que tel, dans PoE2, c'est très compliqué à justifier un endgame, hein, je trouvais.
it and you're like, obviously, but it's I don't exactly know what the solution is yet, but we need to do some more love there. But like generally speaking, yes, there's a couple of OP outliers, but everything should be getting raised up for average player, especially mid game, early end game, without having to. And you don't have to. The only way to play it shouldn't be this one very specific node to take this very specific skill or use this very specific node or use this very specific unique, and just trying to make it just more broadly like investing in defenses no matter what feels good. And we're not there yet. So anyway, Giga rant covered a lot of things there, but anyway.
Excellent. I saw a few questions about it in chat. It does surprise me a little bit. I thought there was more of a consensus that life on the tree was unpopular, as it was kind of in Path of Exile 1. And
Qu'est-ce qu'il est corpo quand même, ce Ziggy.
my life node tax. But I'm curious how
Oh là là.
you obviously removed life
Ah,
from
je
the tree
déteste,
in
moi.
PoE2 effectively. What led to that decision, and how do you feel about it now? Kind of like
Qu'est-ce qu'il est
0.5
corpo?
of the way in.
Again, I personally prefer it not being there. I think it makes the decisions of what I'm taking on the tree more interesting and where I'm pathing.
To
And
not have it.
I think, to not have it, I think that will increase over time. I think I am less penalized for hunkering down in a certain section as opposed to having to get this like minimum life percentage threshold by going to certain spots. I think it allows you to be a bit more free, but I also understand why people are asking for it. Especially like I see a lot of people comparing life and energy shield, where it's obvious, right? They're both your life pool, but energy shield should be compared to armor and evasion, and obviously they're asymmetric, so I can understand how that can't be so trivial. And I can also understand that when people are dying to a thing and they don't necessarily understand why, the answer is I need more life, and I get it, but that can. Not that it can be that the problem and the solution don't have to be the same thing. Like there's an obvious path to the solution when you're dying, you're running out of life. But it can be that there are other ways to solve that problem. And when I look at the defenses and just identify fundamental problems, how much of that problem will be solved by just fixing those fundamentals?
You want to make those juicy to take and actually.
Yeah, so I'm not ready just yet to like, you know, but that doesn't say things like these are off the cards for sure.
Yeah, I know you've been discussing.
But if the defenses are bad, then we should fix the defenses first.
Merci
and
beaucoup.
see if it's
Ouais,
still-
Really,
pour les
we're
33,
just
merci
gonna
beaucoup.
follow the trail
La
of
forme.
bad until and then we'll see.
It's
But
just that the reason why we don't want to do it is really we just don't want to make it so that okay, if you don't know to pick life, then you're just gonna suck. And this is a thing that PoE1 has, right? If you
Yeah,
don't
you
know
have-
that
you
you
have to
need to,
pay
you
the
have to
tax.
pick life.
Yeah.
If you don't know that, you just die. And we wanted to try and remove like noob traps, right? Of just things where like okay, like the things you just have to know. And so ideally we can get to a situation where we just don't, you know.
thing is, I'd even rather solve it with a more immediate option. So, for example, if you're dying a lot and you're like, I need more life, here's a cluster 12 passive points away. It's like, okay, so I got to level 12 more times to now feel a bit stronger. I would rather just immediately go, if you need more life, then the way to get that should be itemization solutions. Like you should be doing it on your gear and that should be something that is readily available via things like essences or various crafting systems. Like, I mean, Runic Ward kind of is that in a way. It's like,
Point de
I'm
vue, c'est les
dying,
massues,
okay,
quoi.
let's add some Runic Ward. Now I'm probably going to die less. Like, I understand that's more of like a campaign, newer player problem kind of thing, but I don't like, you know, I need to be tankier now, because I'm dying, I can't overcome this boss. It's all good. I'll be able to solve it 2 days from now if they're playing only like an hour or two a day. So I also just want to make sure there are immediate solutions to these things as well via itemization. So it might be even that we need to look at that more. Okay, I am looking at that more recently. I was like, damn, a lot of these runes that go in your armor, just because we're doing the martial artist and you get these rune slots. And I was like, okay, in game there's some chase stuff, but these ones in the campaign are just kind of sad. Like there's some sad, like obviously resistances are fine. I got no issue with that, but some of these other armor runes, I'm like, well, that's not okay. I put that in and now I'm like just I'm what 2% tankier. Like what am I even getting out of this? Like I want to make sure that. So I was looking recently and I'm like, we just need to buff all these armor runes. Like those were meant to be problem solvers for holes in your core stats throughout the campaign, and so even just things like that, where it's like, yeah, you should be able to just get a lot more of that just by using defense or armor slot runes, as well as adding new ones, because honestly there's kind of a thin selection, and it just ends up being like resistances in most slots until end game again. Well, even still sometimes just resistances there as well, depends, but. Yeah, obviously we're adding 160, so that's a big difference, but I wanted to make sure there's a lot more in the campaign, and the campaign ones are buffed as well, so...
Je veux savoir ce qu'ils disent sur le temple going core.
About a lot with temple going core. Is there any major changes there to how temple snaking works? Especially
we had to get rid of the snake strategy.
Plus de stratégie. Ok.
We actually had a solution for the snake strategy, the proper solution, as it were, that we wanted to do right after the league launched. Like it was actually on holiday, and like I was like, okay, I need to fix the snake strategy. But the problem is the one that we came up with is that we felt like it would be a mid-league nerf if we deployed it. Yeah. So we made like a few band-aid fixes, but it wasn't really the correct strategy. And ultimately what the snake strategy is it comes about because there are rooms that the game wants to delete, but it can't delete them because it would disconnect the temple. And so what we've got as a solution to that effectively is that if that would happen, then it will just create an empty room there that still connects it up, but isn't the room that you had there before. And that just means that there's no incentive to kind of do those weird strategies anymore, which should result in all of the the weird, really broken stuff from happening. Like you can kind of take it more at face value because you don't have to worry about this like particular way of organizing things to be able to to be able to do well.
And to be clear, the current like snaking is resulting in what we deem as 1,000% unacceptable levels of item drops.
The item drops are out of control due to that.
Out of control.
But there was just there's always the situation when you've got the stuff where like we would love to nerf it, but you can only nerf something like that if it hasn't gotten too out of containment before you nerf it. Yeah. Because the moment that people feel like 10% of the player base have like gotten well, then I can't do it, and like you're pulling the ladder up behind them and that kind of stuff. Exactly, it just doesn't feel good. So the whole thing. We just sort of had to let it be. And the thing that sucks about it is that it can make people's perception of what the correct level of item drops is to be incorrect, and that can then mean that like when we don't have the like bananas temple loot going on, that people might not be as happy with that, but it'll be a thing there, like one league down the line after they've forgotten about that part. it'll be okay. But yeah, like that was it was out of control and we didn't love it. That being said, like there are also some. Did you get the extra reward stuff for the reward rooms? Is that
we've done some buffs to the reward rooms.
So basically, just like if you play it conventionally, there's some buffs to the rewards when you're like for the stuff that was like pointless to do before. So in particular, the reward rooms that you get for killing the architects, like those weren't good enough. We want to make sure, so people weren't even bothering.
There was a strategy where people were using those to like get quick at Zeri runs and stuff as well. Fix that problem. There's a bunch of algorithmic problems with like how rooms get deleted or decide to get deleted or swapped that have been changed such that there's not like some of these weird. They got to the point of being honestly a little bit exploitative to the point it's like, I hate that I have to do this thing.
We certainly don't want anything where people feel like I have to do this weird thing that I don't enjoy doing in order to get the most rewards. Like that's the key thing we want to. Because of course they will do it, right? Because that's the most rewards.
Couple cool things. The Atlas tree now applies to the temple.
Cool.
Right. Whole thing. And we're obviously relevant. There are some cases where obviously there's no summoning circles in there. And obviously it has its own Atlas tree now. Now that it's core, and its own entire quest line on the Atlas, where you can go there and do the thing.
There's a place where it physically is.
It's like you get all the points, and there's parts of the tree that are blocked behind killing the architects. So you're getting like little unlocks and stuff like that.
There's supposed to be little districts in the city where like you kill the architects, and now this district is unlocked, and you can go in there and little things. There's just little things.
Sort of exploring that. Very nice. Production, could I request a brief intermission for us so we don't have to rush the rest of the endgame discussion? We'll be right back, folks.
Okay.
Firstly, I'm very happy to see that the world looks like an actual world now.
Yes.
It's an atlas, an actual map. It's where you go and do exploration. So was this kind of the goal for the outset when you were making this whole world map style atlas from the beginning?
Well, okay. I think that I didn't realize when we were making it the importance of having those fixed locations, like knowing where things are.
Okay.
And so it's like we wanted it to feel like there was a world of stuff to explore, but I think that we did make a mistake in not necessarily like realizing that it is important that you can get your bearings and that kind of stuff initially. So having the fixed points has worked even better than I expected. Honestly, like I was a little bit worried it would make it feel like too samey every time, but honestly, it's really cool. Like in all of those points of interest, like I don't know if we really showed it, like how easy it is to sort of get to the things, but it's usually to get to one of the league things. It's only like 4 or 5 maps away from the sign location. Like when I was first showing it to you when you first arrived, like like you do just go. Like I started with it just all fog of war there, and I'm like, okay, if you just go down this way a little bit, then you get into the breach area, and if you just go ride a little bit, then look, there's these abyss cracks here and stuff like that. So that's really cool. And the other thing is as well is just like the fact that there's like a giant ocean to one side means you just got your bearings. We're like, okay, we're on the edge of the continent here. Like this is where we are, and we did even try to sort of think, okay, well, like in the physical raycast map, like this is the direction in which like all of the the temple of the Zeri's temple and everything of Laraval was, and like so we're going to put it in that direction. We try to sort of like have our bearings so that all those things are sort of like have some kind of real world analog, which is pretty cool. And there's even, if you go far enough into the ocean, you will find Oriath over there.
I didn't know you were going to
I
didn't know you were going to say that.
Which has the beast the apocalypse is there. You see, it doesn't actually do anything. Like there's not a reason, but it's like we wanted it to feel more like this is actually
like
like
5 and 6 for that. Right?
Yeah. So it'll change later once we've got the rest of the campaign in. But
that blew my mind though. That you can just go in the ocean, and as long as you pick the exact right direction,
yeah, exactly. It's kind of more of an Easter egg than anything. The fact that it's there, but we do want it to feel like it is Rayclass that you're exploring. That this is like like things are at least broadly where they're supposed to be, and like while it is the biomes and stuff like that are all randomly generated, like what maps are there randomly generated, like the initial layout of where the landmarks are is like really nice.
We could have like a world first race to Oriath or something like that.
I don't know, maybe
expedition race, so you can get over there first.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So I think before, when you first started Endgame, you just kind of ran maps, and it took dozens of maps for anything to kind of interesting.
Yes, I agree. And now we want that to be way shorter. So like the first time you open the atlas, like there's towers that rise out of the ground, and like there's a quest marker right there to do that, but you don't have to do that, right? You can go a different direction, and pretty soon you'll run into like a breach or something, and then it'll be an NPC. Like within 1 or 2 maps, there'll definitely be an NPC telling you, "Hey, look over here," and like it'll appear in the fog of war. You'll see there's a quest marker. You're like, "Oh, right, there's something over that way." Like that's the kind of experience that we want to have, of like feeling like you are exploring, like a kind of. Like, I guess it's more of a sort of, it's funny because it's a little bit, in a way, it's sort of a bit more like that sort of open world game design that you would get from a kind of open world game, except it's on a kind of like Atlas level. So you need to be thinking, get that feeling of like, but there's points of interest and stuff to find and that sort of stuff. And not only that, but we did want to make the kind of the infinite part, like once you have done all the quest lines, the infinite part needs to be more interesting too. So now what we have is all of the leagues are adding Atlas mechanics, right? Like, so you've got things that, and I guess that's one of the other things I really want to make sure people are aware of is like all the leagues do have things that interact with the Atlas in interesting ways. So like, you've got the delirium fog thing where you're spreading fog over, and the positions of things matter, and where you pick to do it will matter, and
actual
like that sort of stuff. Actual abyss cracks that close on the Atlas is really cool. Like I really like that one. That was one of those that people thought I was a bit crazy when I suggested that one, but it's one of those things that's just it's just really cool.
No, it's crazy.
So it's fun to come up with those kinds of mechanics for leagues and think about how they can escalate and so on. But it also adds like another sort of deeper layer to everything too, because one of the big issues we had with all of the leagues was that they had kind of like their mechanic, but they didn't have like, and here's how the mechanic changes and here's how it evolves, and like there wasn't kind of a lot of that going on with those initial 010 early access leagues. And it's really adding all that extra depth that like makes an actually interesting thing. And like part of the reason why we identified that is because like when we came to write a quest line for them, we're like, well, there actually isn't enough here to write a quest line for.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Like there just kind of wasn't really stuff enough to do. So it's like we have to add a bunch more to make it so a quest line is reasonable to do. And so the quest line actually sort of drove in some ways like the making sure that there is an evolution that happens across the course of every league. And I guess that really does set the standard now for what you have to make a league for PoE2. Like that it's going to have things like that and mechanics like that.
It seems like you're really trying to min-max the breadcrumbing here in particular, because like you leave the town as like literally the second map is a tower, and then like 3-4 maps after that is the gate of the giant fortress.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, we want you to get to that stuff quickly, right? And the funny thing is that it also, like what we said earlier about how the different sort of amount of time it takes for like the average player versus what people believe is the average, like it really does need to be that minimal number of maps to make that happen, because for some people, like, they're taking a long time to complete maps, right? Like, you know, like if it's taking like, you know, 7 to 15 minutes in some cases to do a map, like you don't want it to be multiple hours of gameplay to get to the first.
Even that's fast by the average.
Yeah, and it's like we don't want it to be hours and hours later when you finally get to one of these things. So it really does need to be just a few maps. And obviously, if you're a fast map runner, you're going to just blaze through that real quickly. But yeah, you do need to sort of consider.
Le temps que c'est mort. Oui, le temps que ça ressemblera plus, tu vois ce que c'était avant.
This questifying stuff is for people who don't even know what's in the end game. Like an issue you'd have with a first time player before is you'd go in the end game. It's like, is there even anything out there? Like you don't even know, right? So it's like you need those kind of like a few guideposts to even get you started to be like, okay, well, like here's some stuff that I might be able to find.
Yeah, and even if you don't go like that tower into the fortress,
no, you can go another way.
Literally pick any direction. Like, because that was the thing that surprised me the most when you were showing me by kind of like revealing the map, was like you literally can't pick a direction and miss.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. You will hit something no matter which way you go.
It actually made like the raid class situation look. This raid class situation is crazy. It looked pretty dire. You're like basically surrounded on all sides. It's like you look one side and there's like a giant breach for spawn canaries.
Bon, je pense que j'ai globalement assez d'éléments là pour faire ma petite vidéo today, probablement. Cool en tout cas. Bon. Bah, du coup, pas mal. Hein. En vrai, là, le patch, quand vous le prenez d'un bout à l'autre, que vous retirez un petit peu, comme je disais tout à l'heure, tout le gras. Ça a des bonnes fondations, à mon avis, pour la suite du jeu. Il y a quand même eu des petits mots là sur l'équilibrage qui me rassurent aussi. Donc, on n'aura pas de patch note hein, avant la semaine. Avant la semaine précédant le launch, on aura le patch note probablement le 22, quelque chose comme ça. Encore quelques tests, donc ça sera pour les équilibrages des classes et compagnie, on n'aura pas le fin mot avant ce jour-là. Et là, en termes purement de contenu, d'ajout de contenu et de... C'est pas tant de l'ajout en fait, il y a de l'ajout, mais c'est beaucoup aussi de la réorganisation. L'organisation et aller un peu plus en profondeur dans les mécaniques existantes. Pour donner des vraies identités. Et améliorer la progression de l'endgame, ça m'a l'air très très cool, très solide. Ouais, donc du coup, là pour le programme, je vais vous envoyer quelque part. Et on va voir où. De mon côté, je vais préparer la petite vidéo récapitulative, mesdames et messieurs. Ah, malheureusement, Enip fait du Diablo 4, on va pas les raids Enip. Pas grand monde en live là, à vrai dire. Ouais, tant pis, basta. Très grave. Ouais, bon bah écoutez, mesdames et messieurs, j'ai préparé la petite vidéo, moi, de mon côté. Et on se tient au courant quand il y a des nouveautés, hein, parce qu'il y aura probablement peut-être des petits teasers d'ici là, le patch note, etc. Donc il y aura des petits retours hein, d'ici là, la release. Yes. Allez, bonsoir mesdames et messieurs, bonne fin de journée. Et puis stay tuned si vous voulez checker la vidéo récap en fin de journée là, qui sortira. Juste le temps que je la tourne et que je la monte. Allez, bye. Tchuss.